See, there I am. I'm complaining. Evening to you. I'm complaining to my team saying, well, you know, we need to make sure the video's all up and running and everything, and then the video comes to life. And I'm sat here and I haven't got my headphones on and I'm taking a sip of tea. So that'll teach me in future. Welcome if you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube. Welcome if you are live across the UK on DAB. It is, of course, Late Night with Cristo here on Talk Radio. Lots we're going to be discussing tonight. Of course, the main topic of conversation, once again, as it has been all this week, is the idea of further restrictions. We now know that the Prime Minister will be talking to us on Monday, announcing more restrictions for across the UK. Again, I will continue the conversation. You've been having it with Kevin, but what do you think should happen next? I'm not going to continue the entire conversation you've been having with Kevin about the Great Reset. From that perspective, I probably won't be talking about that because I've heard a lot of you and I think you've driven poor Kevin. He left the building looking rather frazzled. So I don't know what you've done to him over the last 3 hours, but I don't think he wants to talk about it anymore. But we will talk about what is happening in the week's news. But from 11 tonight, as always, I remind you not to forget that it's the Any Other Business Hour. Yes, from 11 tonight, you can call about anything you like. It doesn't have to be COVID. It could be, of course, you could be calling about the contradictions. Did I just spill tea on myself? Oh, my word, I just spilled tea on myself. Just give it a bit of a wipe. It's fine. Don't worry, it didn't go in any of the equipment. It just went on me. On my favourite jumper. I'm wearing my jazzy jumper tonight. And I got tea all over it. How irritating is that? What's probably more irritating, though, is the thought of no hope on the horizon. I'm feeling really flat today. And I don't know about you, but I just feel quite depressed that there only seems to be grim options on the horizon. And I can't help but wonder where Boris is. And I don't mean where Boris is when it comes to his cheerfulness, but I mean about this freedom-loving liberal who ideologically doesn't want to have the state be all too powerful. He wants to roll back the state. He wants to give people the freedom to make their own choices. And I just feel like we're heading in such a completely different direction. And I'm worried for the first time, and I don't mean to panic you because there's nothing specifically new to worry about, so please don't worry. I'm just sort of giving you a little personal diatribe at the moment. But I'm a bit worried that I'm for the first time worried about the cost to things other than COVID. And maybe it's just the extent we've been talking about it that is getting on top of me a little bit. Maybe it's just the fact that there seems to be no end in sight to any kind of restrictions we're living under. Maybe it is the lack of clarity. Maybe it's what we were discussing yesterday, the misinformation, the speculation, the not knowing solidly what's going on. But I'm worried that we're missing people who've got other illnesses. I'm worried that people are on waiting lists for ages. I'm worried about yours, my and our neighbours and friends' mental health. I'm worried about the suicide rate. I'm worried that we are so COVID focused that we're forgetting about everything else. I'm worried about the economy. I'm worried about how many people will suffer if the economy gets even worse. I'm worried about how we'll come out of it at the end. I'm worried about debt because of the fact that you usually have to borrow to get out of these sorts of messes or cut things to the bone, which we've just been through for 10 years. So I don't know whether it's just like, maybe it's just getting on top of me today, but those are all the things that have been going through my head in the last 24 hours. And maybe it's more of a realization that the more we're talking about locking down more, the more I'm thinking that we're going to have all of those things I've just described getting worse. So that's where I am in my head. And that sort of encompasses a lot of what we've been discussing this week, actually. The new development today from Rishi Sunak, who I have to say is like a life raft in these times. He's like the Rishi Sunak dinghy. It's not Rishi's dinners, it's Rishi's dinghy, because I think he's keeping us all afloat at the moment. 67% of pay if firms are told to close today. That's going to be some reassurance for those people who are worried about their jobs. Probably not enough. Again, we heard other things from Boris this week in his conference. It all seems a little bit futile at the moment, about trying to get people on the housing ladder and the housing crisis for younger people. So we spoke about that earlier this week. If you'd like to discuss that, once again, you may. 0344 499 1000. Also, the other big story that we had a conversation about. Thank you for your text, by the way, Susan. What colour is your jumper this evening? The one you've just spilt your tea on. It's a lovely array of colours. It's a very subtle combination of colours. It's light blue, navy blue, and sort of electric blue. And it's a triangle geometric check pattern. It's very subtle, very understated, very fashionable. Thank you very much, Susan. I hope that that's an adequate description. We had an interesting conversation earlier this week about Black History Month as well, and some of the backlash. And this might come into Woke of the Week as well, you know, because we're going to be doing that from 11 o'clock, where you get to nominate some of the acts of wokeness that you believe have happened in the last 7 days. Last week, I don't know how it happened, but I ended up being nominated myself. Didn't I? I don't think that's an unprecedented in Woke of the Week. Why was I nominated last week? Oh, because of the strictly same-sex couple thing. I only made one comment. All I said was it would be quite nice when you're young to see a couple of the same gender dancing on Strictly Come Dancing. And when you're young and you don't see that sort of stuff on television, it's nice to grow up seeing it. My word. I mean, you'd think I was trying to put the gay adult channel on BBC at 7 o'clock. The reaction that we got. So I'm not sure we'll be talking about that this evening. We can if you want to. Now, we were talking about Black History Month and the anger that you're feeling towards Sainsbury's, and not necessarily the anger towards Black History Month, though of course their tweets on that subject were a source of controversy this week. And of course Lawrence Fox did wade in on that and have something of an altercation on Twitter, though I am increasingly thinking that Lawrence Fox could have an altercation in an empty room, because he seems to fall out with everyone online, myself included. He's fallen out with Sainsbury's, and that's because he seemed to be angry about Black History Month. Sainsbury's then responded saying, look, you know, at the end of the day, we're making a commitment to our colleagues, and we've provided some safe spaces for our black colleagues. People then got very angry about that, saying, well, look, this is segregation. This is the absolute opposite of what you're supposed to be fighting for when it comes to equality. Then Sainsbury's pointed out, no, these safe spaces were actually online. It was Zoom conversations that we were giving our black employees the chance to have with each other. And actually, we won't tolerate racism. And, you know, this is all part of Black Lives Matter. Well, the moment you mention Black Lives Matter, that's, I think, when it all gets a bit toxic, because then you're moving perhaps out of the realms of a movement for equality, which I think is the principle behind Black Lives Matter. But when you consider the actual organisation itself, and also some of the political goals they have, then it moves into a different realm of Sainsbury's not talking about equality, but talking about politics. Now, some of you got very annoyed about that. Some of you were nominating this for Woke of the Week earlier this week. So we can explore that if you like tonight. Maybe you've had some time to reflect on what you were thinking earlier this week. I want to reiterate, I've absolutely no problem with Black History Month at all. And I don't know why Lawrence Fox got so annoyed with Sainsbury's for that. I know some people are against Black History Month. I think obviously Sainsbury's, if there was a suggestion that their customers were racist if they're against Black History Month, I'm not sure you can blanket everyone who has an opinion on Black History Month as racist, because there is black people that are against Black History Month, and so there is a diversity of opinion about that. I don't have a problem with it in the slightest, because it's just an acknowledgement of history, and it's an acknowledgement of people in history that might not have been celebrated that much in the past. So that's all right. But it's when Sainsbury's and other supermarkets get into arguments with their customers online, that's when I think it inflames things. And also when Lawrence Fox gets annoyed about things like Black History Month. Again, I don't know why he was so annoyed about that. But then again, I'm blocked by him. So I'm paraphrasing the tidbits that I've seen online about this. If you want to clarify any of it for me, because I can't actually read Lawrence Fox's tweets because he blocked me quite a long time ago when we had an argument on Twitter. Well, he sort of retweeted me and got loads of people to pile on, and then he blocked me, so we couldn't argue. So I can't tell you what he actually said in these tweets, but 0344 499 1000 if you want to join the conversation on any of those things. Don't forget, as I said though, you're already calling about this now. Any other business from 11 o'clock. That is your chance to call about anything you like. I've just listed a few topics that made headlines this week. I've just listed a few of the topics that you and I had some good conversations about this week that lit up the switchboard. But from 11, it is up to you. Any other business from 11 o'clock. You can call about a story that you've seen. You can call about a point of view. I might put a ban on the Great Reset as an any other business topic. So maybe it will be the nearly any other business hour, because it's not going to be completely any other business, because I've seen the state of Kevin after that conversation. And like I said, I think he needs a diazepam and to go home. So I won't be allowing that conversation from 11. But anything else you can call about, or any other perspective on a story, or maybe there's something that's irritated you, you've heard this week, or seen in the media, maybe something I've said, maybe something another presenter has said has driven you mad, and you've got to get it off your chest. Well, we're the home of free speech. We're the station that allows you to do that. So 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. You always wear that jumper on a Friday. I do. It's my Friday jumper. We sort of jazz it up a bit on a Friday to celebrate for the weekend, and that's when you get to realise what a fashion icon you're listening to as well as watching. Why are you looking at me like that when I say that? I don't need a new jumper. This is my Friday jumper. This is a designer jumper. This is a Paul Smith jumper. This is an expensive jumper. When I wear my tat in the week that costs nothing, no, I don't get any comments. When I wear my designer apparel, I get torn to shreds. I will not. You will not get me out of this jumper in any way, shape or form. Thank you very much. Thank you, Susan. It sounds lovely. I'm sorry you've made a mess of it. Oh, right. Well, thanks, Susan. Well, it's not that bad, but I'll have to get a little bit of vanish on that when I get home. Well, I'll be vanishing for a couple of minutes from you. But when we come back, we'll talk to the journalist, the broadcaster, the motivational speaker. Fionn Dixon will be here. She'll be looking back some of the big stories of the week and giving her opinion. And it'll be your opinion I'm interested in from 11 o'clock. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. It's late night. It's Cristo. It's Talk Radio.
Talk Radio.
Evening all, how are you? It's late night here on Talk Radio. It's Cristo with you till 1 o'clock. Thank you for your company. Thanks for joining us all this week. As always, it's always been a pleasure to talk to you at 10 o'clock. I always enjoy our conversations, and I think we need to remember as well, especially while we're analysing all of these events and what's going to happen and what's on the horizon and what might happen on Monday, that we are all in this together, and we need to just make sure that we remember to look out for each other a little bit. And it's sort of part of my frustration that do you know what I was thinking that I'm most frustrated about? And I'll talk to Fionn Dixon about this in just a moment. But as I said before the break, it's this idea that we needed the first lockdown, and I got the logic behind the first lockdown. I would have even got the logic behind a second lockdown had it been carried out really swiftly and targeted effectively. But I think we screwed it up, the first one, because it was too late. But I also think that the moment the first lockdown was over, we should have been working towards a strategy that meant that we knew a second wave was coming, and that the way to deal with that second wave would not be locking down. So that the parameters of how we dealt with it were those parameters based on us not fully locking down. And Boris and the scientists and everyone had to come up with a way, and they had 6 months to do so, of not locking down. Now, whether that meant that then they increased rather than started to strip back capacity in those COVID hospitals, those Nightingale hospitals, whether it means that you increase capacity in those non-COVID hospitals so that some of the backlog of other conditions could be looked at. Why was an army of community volunteers not mobilised to make sure that the most vulnerable in our society could be looked after by their neighbours, by their friends? Why wasn't there a better strategy over the summer put for care homes for when a second wave came? Well, I'll tell you, because they screwed up so monumentally with the first wave with care homes, they're afraid to do anything now other than to lock down. Why weren't these COVID marshals that we were all told needed to be there to snoop on each other? Why didn't they become community marshals so that they could be the ones out and about looking after vulnerable community members? Anything to keep society functioning. And then, as the very last resort, you have lockdown measures. But you try all of that first. And we had 6 months to sort all of that out. But it seems like 6 months on, we're having the same conversations we were having back in March. And a lot of the more restricted and more targeted local lockdowns aren't working anyway. So I'm despairing. I'm feeling really just, when you feel a bit flat about it all. I shouldn't really use this as my therapy hour, really. So we'll get on to the business at hand, and we'll talk to the journalist, broadcaster and motivational speaker, Fayon Dixon, who joins us live via video link. Evening to you, Fayon.
Hi, good evening, Cristo. How are you doing?
Yeah, all right. Always a pleasure. Thanks very much indeed for taking the time to look back at some of the big stories of the week. Well, we say looking back, it's the same story every single day. You don't need to look back. It's whatever is happening today. Yeah. I don't know. We've been talking a lot about mental health this week, and I've done it in quite a removed way. But I have to say, even me now, whose job it is to dissect all of this, I'm just starting to feel really anxious about the fact that we seem to be heading for potentially the same mistakes and the same hell that we've been through before. Am I right to think that way?
You're human at the end of the day, and I feel a lot of the human element has been taken away through this whole lockdown situation. You know, we were already at capacity looking after our mentally ill and vulnerable before lockdown. That was already an issue. And people's welfare, I don't think, has really been put as the first thing. And, you know, you're saying, you know, I shouldn't be feeling like this. You know, I'm here to make everybody else feel better. It's absolutely fine. It's natural. I'd be worried if you weren't going through a bit of a dip.
Because, no, and I appreciate that. And I thank you for saying that. I guess I'm just trying to demonstrate that even it's difficult for the best of us to be able to navigate through this. I actually feel better placed tonight to have the conversation that I had last night, which is that it's not so much what's happening, it's more not knowing what's happening. It's not so much the thought of measures, it's not knowing whether we're going to need them or not knowing the direction of travel, and not knowing whether there is any kind of strategy whatsoever. And I think that I'm obviously not alone in that, because there doesn't appear to be any kind of strategy. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just so frustrated we're in this situation. I mean, how do you feel about where we are right now in comparison to where we were back in March?
I'm really disappointed. I mean, from the get-go, my family and I, you know, I have a husband and 2 teenage stepdaughters who didn't get to do their exams because they're 16 and 18. And, you know, they were beside themselves at the beginning of lockdown. One of them had really studied very hard and has been wanting to do her A-levels since she was the age of 8. All she's ever wanted to do is go to university. And all of this was just thrown up. So our first role as parents was to, you know, we didn't have answers, but it was to make a pact between us that we were all going to speak together and make sure we were comfortable with what was going on around us. And we made a pact that we would wear masks. We wouldn't go in and out of people's houses. Obviously, we were on complete lockdown then anyway, but we were going to talk openly about how we felt. And, you know, we made the best of it. We looked after each other. We fed each other. We loved each other. We played more games. we tried to do things that were more creative. And obviously we did lots of Zoom chats and everything else and checked in with friends. But the reality is, you know, I personally felt very positive. I got a lot done in lockdown, and I certainly got a lot of work done. I work a lot in events as well. I mean, obviously I couldn't work in schools because, you know, the schools were shut, but all the events that I normally do got stopped, you know.
So how do you feel? How do you feel now, potentially talking to your daughters or potentially now planning your life? Like there might be more restrictions on the horizon. Was there any part of you that thought that still in October we would be having the same conversations?
Absolutely not. I mean, I'm an eternal optimist. And when this whole thing began, I really thought by summer we'd be kind of on our way out. You know, I really thought with all the great minds that we have of scientists, our politicians, you know, and we're not on our own in the UK dealing with this. It's a worldwide pandemic. So with all the great minds coming together, I thought, okay, we can nail this. And so I kept being positive. I knew we had to be careful, but I just hoped in July that we would be ready for September, for when the kids go back to school, when, you know, my eldest stepdaughter would be going to York in uni. And it's just not the case. Here we are with no answers.
This is what I can't get. I mean, it's not like September is an unknown or unexpected month to have expected people to go back to school. People were going back to work. Summer, August is always a sort of dead month anyway. So September was going to be that big moment where we tried to put things back together. And I don't understand why we're in a situation where suddenly it seems like a shock that the R rate is going up, and that you know, this should have been expected, and we should have had measures to mitigate it over and above. I mean, these measures. Hospitality isn't going to survive.
I just don't want to repeat stuff that people have already said, but it is, you know, it's obvious. You know, we've got a prime minister who gave us, you know, contradictory advice. But, you know, as a family, we followed our own advice. He said, use your common sense. So we did. Washing hands to me was not something new. It was something we were doing anyway from you know, the get-go. But we were told to eat out. We were told to stay at home. We were told to go to work. We were told not to go to work. We were told to ride bikes, run, not use cars, use cars. And like you say, it's like September's come. It's like, well, here we go again. But what is worse this time round is we don't have a glorious summer ahead of us. We have winter. And talking about mental health, people get, you know, the seasonal is it adjustment deficiency?
Affective disorder, I think.
That's the one. Sorry, yeah. Where it's called SAD, isn't it? Yeah. And already people with the dark night, it's getting dark already. The clocks haven't even gone back yet. I just fear for all of those people who are already on their own, already struggling to show how they feel. Some people have not had a hug in a year, maybe. You know, maybe they didn't get a hug before lockdown began. But I work with stroke survivors as well, and you know, I deliver creative workshops for them. I've done it for like 18 years in between all my presenting and stuff like that. And even though my charity couldn't afford to pay me, I continue to deliver these workshops every week on a Wednesday and a Thursday, because I really wanted to connect with these people, because they were not leaving their houses. They're vulnerable people.
Yeah.
And just knowing how they feel, and they're doing their best to keep chipper, I am worried for people's mental health.
I absolutely agree. I completely agree. And this is why we were all, back in March, April, May, we were all in lockdown. We were all sort of these passive vessels waiting for more information. Why weren't we mobilised as a community army to look after the vulnerable people in our community, so that when September started, you know,
we were ready, yeah.
We were ready, you know, we could have all been encouraged, rather than hearing messages about don't kill your granny. How about let's adopt a granny? Every single person in their local neighbourhood being encouraged to do that. And
Yeah.
you know, rather than talking about fining us and getting the police involved, how about getting some of these COVID marshals, as I said at the beginning of this, to be the people going into the community and helping, rather than the ones snooping, being the ones helping. Then,
You're right.
you know, we would have been a mobilised army ready to fight come September. And if that hadn't worked, then fine, at least we could all say, right, we've no other choice but to lock down. We've no choice because we've tried everything else. But I don't feel like any of the strategies have been around that stuff. Maybe though, I don't know. You go on.
Cristo, I feel a lot of people have taken it into their own hands and done things to support their communities. I know my neighbourhood, we're good. You know, we've always had a WhatsApp group. Yes, of course, we went outside and clapped for the carers and everything else. They didn't need the claps. We know that. They needed to have reassurance.
And they needed strategy. They needed a strategy. Like, you know, congratulations. But when this comes back, you know, we're going to come up with something, not just a hollow applause. And then when this returns, well, then we're shutting everything down to keep the NHS safe. But at the end of the day, well, what are we going to have left at the end of it?
Well, I do believe that, you know, the lockdown to keep the NHS safe is because they didn't have a strategy. So it's like, you know what, keep everybody off the streets for now while we think about what to do. And it was always like every day they were coming up with something new, but that long-term strategy was not there. And I feel that our country, you know, is in a, I mean, Germany and the UK do seem to be doing stuff to be moving forward, to see that they're, you know, at least trying, but it's all too late. It's not going in the right direction. And I wonder what people have been doing, the people that are, you know, in government and the people that make the decisions, what they've been doing in the last 6 months or so. What have they been doing? You know, communities could have been making face masks, giving them out, doing it together, or, you know, doing it in little pods. The community marshals, for instance, somebody recognizable walking up and down your street. Hello, how you doing? Have you seen Mrs. Brown at number 92 recently?
Exactly.
No, we haven't. You know,
who wouldn't have supported that? Who, if across the UK, we're all having debates about whether we should be punished by the police, whether COVID marshals should be snooping through people's letterboxes. Whereas we would have all said, what, these are community marshals, right? These are people that are actually going to be keeping a track on what's going on. Every community marshal could have been given a number of vulnerable people who couldn't have been looked after by the wider community. This was the time, if we were talking about these invoking the Blitz and all of this, we were ready, we were there, we were willing and we were able. And instead, I just think that we've been left high and dry months and months later. And I can't sit here and say I can give any evidence as to whether lockdown is good or not, in as much as the first lockdown, because 40,000 people died anyway. Who knows how many would have died had we not locked down? And if that was what was required then fair enough. As you very eloquently just said, you know, at the time there was a big worry about the NHS capacity. No one knew what was going to happen. No one knew quite how serious COVID was. No one knew whom and how it would affect them when it came to our wider population and the demographics of our population and the density of our population. All of that back then, you can forgive. You can say there was no other option.
I think the UK, the people of the UK on the whole, have been really behind this. We've stayed indoors. We've worn our masks. We've been respectful. You know, we've tried as much as we can. But yeah, we've got nothing, we've got no reassurances. And so, like I say, we're going into winter now. And, you know, I've heard awful cases of even young people. In fact, today, a friend of mine was telling me how a student came into their school today and was just absolutely acting so out of character. By the end of the day, they had to call the police, an ambulance, and an 18-year-old boy got sectioned today under the Mental Health Act because he just lost it. You know, our young people, our old people, our middle-aged people, everybody is affected by this. And if there's nothing else we've got, it's our health, but our mental health, we don't always get to express how we feel. Some people are very good at it. Some people are very closed. But, you know, I do feel as a community, myself and people around me, we're looking out for each other. but you always miss someone. People always fall through the net.
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully that wouldn't happen, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Like I said, that by locking down,
Nobody's sure.
we're helping those people, and it's just it's quite depressing to know that, like I said, the two options are dead slow or stop on the horizon. And just on that point about masks, again, that is so frustrating. Back in March, there was no debate about masks. If you told us back in March that we all needed to wear masks in public and
We'd have got on with it.
we'd have got on with it. But instead,
Yeah.
Matt Hancock and the scientists were giving press conference after press conference after press conference saying that the science does not follow needing masks. The science does not follow needing masks. So everyone was convinced that masks would do nothing until suddenly, one day, out of the blue, now suddenly masks, we all need to start wearing them. But not shop assistants. But then out of the blue, next time, yes, now it's shop assistants need to wear masks. So of course, by then, everyone said, well, hang on, you've been telling us masks are absolutely pointless. So now that then became a debate about whether masks were needed or not. Whereas had they done it back in March or April, no one would have minded.
Well, that's what I was saying about common sense. I mean, we as a family, we wore our masks from the get-go. I've been wearing a mask since the end of March, not because I thought, I'm trying to protect myself. I thought, I'm trying to protect you because I don't know what I've got from what I haven't got, but I'm showing respect. My family and I are showing respect for the process because nobody knows. So this is our common sense. And I've been challenged by a couple of people. Why are you wearing a mask? You're afraid of COVID. I'm like, well, whilst I don't know what's happening, I'm going to just do what I need to do. And I ask that you respect what I do, and I'll respect, whatever madness you're going on with. But I'm going to wear a mask for now because nobody knows what's going on.
Well, I think that that's a decent way of thinking. I mean, I more or less did the same. I mean, I when it was required to wear one, I wore one. I don't think it's a huge hassle, and it may be. I mean, they're horrible to wear. I don't like wearing one for a long period. No, I think
not when you've got people who work in the NHS who have to wear them up to 8 hours, 12 hours a day under duress, and they're working hard. For me, I feel it's small commitment.
I understand, but sometimes it's just not pleasant when you've had that on your face and you've been sat in, say, you've gone into like, for instance, I'll tell you when it was unpleasant and a scenario where it was horrible. I was in hot and stuffy Westfield. I was in the Apple store in Westfield where you spend an hour queuing up, then you're in the store for an hour trying to get my computer repaired, and by the end of that, I'm going in the corner because you actually feel quite sick because you've been wearing a mask indoors with no air for that amount of time. Now, is that the hardest sacrifice I have to make in the world? Not in the slightest. But is it the most pleasant thing I have to do? No. Not at all. But the point I'm making is, well, you just do, don't you? Because you don't know that you might end up saving someone, and it might be in 6 months' time that I have egg on my face and it turns out we all hear that our masks are completely pointless. But I'd rather feel a bit foolish in 6 months' time than hear that people have potentially been ill because of my not wearing a mask. So I'm
as well, Cristo? Well, I and my family think this as well. We just wanted to be told the truth. If you don't know, say you don't know, and that things are being worked out on, and we're trying to find as many people, great minds to work with as possible. When you hear that universities and scientists are offering their labs, from the start, that they can test and try, and here we are in October, Christmas is practically cancelled and nothing's been done.
And that's the other thing as well. Oh my God, we could talk about this for hours, but Christmas as well. I mean, it's really stressful. I was saying yesterday, it's my parents' golden wedding anniversary the week after next. We've been talking about this event as a family for as long as I can remember. We were talking about would we all go away for it. For years, we've been talking about this event.
I remember seeing your mum celebrate her big birthday, so I know you guys are going to go large.
Well, we were, but we're doing literally nothing. There are 7 in our family. What are we going to do? Leave someone at home? Am I going to say to my
Right.
partner, sorry, babe, you're going to have to stay at home because there can only be 6 of us? The same with Christmas. Now, again, look, I know in the scheme of things, it's absolutely nothing compared to what other families have gone through, but it's just a demonstration of the uncertainty that people have. And actually, if you're an older person at the moment, you're probably going to worry, am I actually going to be sat here on my own at Christmas? Is the family that might normally invite me, is the community centre that I might normally go to, are they going to be having Christmas dinner this year? And I imagine for an older person, that is a pretty grim thought on the horizon. And that lack of clarity.
This is it again. You've got to rely on the community for people like me and you to think about Albert down the road. And my friend Bob, 87, he passed away at the start of COVID, actually. And we've been friends for 18 years. And he was an older man. He had cancer and he had to go into hospital and sadly caught COVID and died, of pneumonia. Horrible. He had to go on his own. He didn't even know if anybody cared. But he is somebody that we would have been seeing over that period of time and looked in on him because he's only got one surviving relative. But it's not up to the government anymore. It's up to us. We have to take responsibility, because if we wait to be told all the time to look after another human being, then we'd all just sort of lock our doors and just, sit and watch.
But absolutely. But then on that, no, we need to know, at the moment, am I spending Christmas just with my partner, just the two of us? Am I going to invite the old lady that lives next door, but I really can't then because there might be 8 of us rather than just 7 of us, and I don't know whether by Christmas are they going to extend it to 7, are they going to extend it to 8, will it still be 6, in which case then it will only it's those sorts of questions. And again, I don't know why Boris isn't saying now, you know what, Christmas Day, whatever happens, you can have 10 people. Just say it now. Or Christmas Day, whatever happens, it is only going to be 6 of you. So then we can all play. Just say it now. But don't, because you know what's going to happen. We're going to find out 48 hours beforehand. Like the people who are opening restaurants, like the people who are opening bars. And I really feel that that's going to be, it's not just necessarily about needing the notice as to how much turkey you buy. I'm talking about mental health here. I'm talking about giving people a light at the end of the tunnel that maybe for 3 days over Christmas we'll be able to all hang out for a few days and then we'll get back on it afterwards. But at the moment, we're all just, again, speculation and misinformation. Listen, we'll take a quick break and then we'll talk about Sainsbury's and the hot water that they and Lawrence Fox have got themselves into this week. And so we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and talk about that late night here on Talk Radio. Good evening. How are you? It's late night here on Talk Radio. It's Cristo from 11 o'clock. You can call about anything you like. Any other business after 11 o'clock is the... you can have anything you like said on the radio, really. Well, within the legal limits. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call to do that. Still joined live on the line by the presenter, the motivational speaker and broadcaster Fayon Dixon, who's been looking through some of the big stories this week for us. Can we talk, Fayon, evening again to you, about the controversy around Sainsbury's and Black History Month? Now, they tweeted out a tweet about support for Black History Month and some of the initiatives that they are carrying out. Lawrence Fox then accused them of being racist for doing that, and that ended up causing a lot of people to be controversial and having all their opinions online about Black History Month and about whether Sainsbury's should be celebrating Black History Month. It all got a bit toxic, and we'll go on to that in just a moment. But firstly, can you have an issue with Black History Month, do you think? Can one, and it not be rooted in racism? Because that's the accusation. If someone says, I don't like Black History Month or I don't see why it's necessary, immediately they get accused of being racist. And that's why Lawrence Fox has sort of got into a lot of these Twitter altercations, because a lot of people have said, well, you're racist for saying you don't approve of Black History Month. So is it possible to disapprove of it without having racist motivations?
Suppose so, yeah. We don't have to agree with everything. I mean, Black History Month is there to highlight some of the fantastic achievements that have been made over centuries by Black people. I mean, they're always there. You can celebrate Black history every day of the year, but that is the month that is picked to highlight it. If you have an object, if you are somebody that feels it's an unnecessary thing, I wouldn't call you a racist. I would check. I would basically say, well, have you looked into it? Do you know who some of the great inventions from Black people are? Because you might find it fascinating, rather than just saying, it's got nothing to do with me. Some of the things around your home that you're using have been invented by Black people. Surely if you knew more about it, you'd have more of appreciation for it. But I don't think it actually makes somebody an out and out racist. Sometimes there's just a bit of ignorance in there, or stubbornness, or just not wanting to conform. But I feel we're throwing the word racism around rather like a frisbee these days. It's everywhere.
Well, I think the logic behind, I'm not Lawrence Fox's spokesperson, but I think the logic behind what some whom object to Black History Month, the logic behind it is that, well, there's a couple of bits of logic. Firstly, that it is that there aren't history months for every other repressed minority. There is, of course, LGBT History Month, and there are, of course, days of remembrance for events like the Holocaust and the horrific events that took place there. But, of course, there are other minorities that don't have their own day. And, of course, there is the accusation about why don't we have a white history month, which, of course, many critics of that point of view point out that we've always celebrated white history. So there's that criticism of it. There is also, though, and actually some members of the Black community make this criticism, Morgan Freeman being one of them, that actually what you're doing, it's almost singling out people's differences, and actually what you're doing by having events like that is you're making almost victims of the different minorities, when in actual fact, if we stopped talking about Black history and gay history and Jewish history, and we just spoke about history, it would actually solve the problems that we have in society. It would. Yeah. I mean, he thinks racism exists, Morgan Freeman, because people talk about racism so much. And he says he gets annoyed with being called a black man because he is a man. He's not a black man. You're not a white man. You're just men. And so I guess those are the two schools of thought as to why Black History Month might not be something that people are in favour of.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, the largest minority in the world are white people. It's as simple as that. The world is full of every single colour, and me, I like to celebrate in people's differences. I like to celebrate in the fact that we've all got something different to say. So any minority could say, okay, I'm going to have my own history month if they wish. But I personally feel we, again, are detracting from something that is a place of learning and a place of dialogue, and nitpicking and finding ways to rubbish it. It's on the calendar. It's there whether you like it or not. Celebrate it, don't celebrate it. But finding ways to to dig in and be negative about it just detracts from the celebrations. There were a lot of Black people in this world that, have heard nothing but derogatory and negative things about their race, and how proud they feel when other people from different parts of the world or society are now finding out. So
I mean, I've absolutely no issue with something like Black History Month or Gay History Month, because what all you're doing, and it really is as simple as this, is saying, look, here's an underrepresented group in the past whose achievements would not have been celebrated on a par with people who were maybe white or maybe straight or whatever else. So we're just taking a moment to say, hey, this is what some of those people achieved. I totally see the logic in that.
But Cristo, as soon as we start teaching about every single type of history in schools, if you can go to a library and you see very vividly, celebrations of all different types of people from all different around the world, then we will stop with the segregation of all
I agree. I mean, I can't wait for the day when no one ever has to come out again because it doesn't matter whether you're out or in, and it doesn't even come up as a question, and that there's no need for any kind of this stuff. I mean, weirdly, the people against it and the people in favour of it are actually on the same page when it comes to that, is that we're all waiting for a day when it's not needed. I'm with you. Where I think it becomes a bit of a problem is then when you have a big brand like Sainsbury's, and they didn't call their customers racist. That would be wrong to say that. But there was in the way I read it, it was sort of implied in their tweet that if you are one of the people who had previously tweeted them against Black History Month and against the sort of safe spaces that they described for some of their black members of staff, that you are immediately a racist, which is why I wanted to ask you that question at the start. I think that is when, as a big brand, you're in sort of dodgy ground, especially when you tie that to your work with Black Lives Matter, which is then sort of almost bordering again on a political movement too. And I think that's when
very messy.
Yeah, that's when I think it starts to get a bit messy.
Yeah, it's getting messy. At the end of the day, why do black people need this safe space of communication at work? Yeah. The big brands, for some reason, have decided, I think I know why, that they need to, rally the charge. We're going to support black people. We're going to give them a safe space. We're going to go overboard in supporting.
Oh God, I'm so glad you said that, because some of it makes me cringe, Fayon. I look at it and I just think that it just makes me cringe.
The thing is, though, Cristo, Sainsbury's actually do a really good job already.
Yeah, they do.
Local charities and communities. At one of my, you know the Clapham Common Sainsbury's, you're a Brixton boy, you know the one up the road. They have beehives on the top of their roofs, and they actually make honey, and it's sold in the community. They do some really cool stuff. But I can't imagine as a black person saying, "Oh, I need a safe space at work where only black people."
Well, it was an online safe space. It was an online, so it was a space that they
has to be at the moment. Yeah, of course.
But chat together online. So that was what they said there was. But no, I get it.
Segregation. It's segregation. What next? We're going to start separating ourselves on buses, on tubes. We're going to walk down one side of the road. Somebody's going to walk down another side of the road. For me, it's pointless. We're going backwards. We're not going forward.
I couldn't agree with you more, because, you and I, it's so enlightening talking to you, because you and I are actually sort of on the same page when it comes to the principles of social justice, the principles of whatever colour, whatever sexuality you are, whatever it might be, you are equal in the eyes of the law, and you have a fair crack of the whip. But increasingly, I feel a little alienated from my side with some of their initiatives, as you're discussing, because some of it sort of crosses over into the very stuff you're trying to get rid of, like the segregation, like the constant focus on our differences, rather than celebrating actually some of what brings us together. And I feel that gets a bit lost sometimes.
The money that is being spent on making, for them, it's kudos. That money could be better spent in, how about reopening a community centre or a youth club? What about school meals, for instance? The amount of wasted food. They're probably doing stuff like that.
But it's about trying to bring in the equality of opportunity. And Sainsbury's, by the way, is a great supermarket most of the time. I just think that they misjudged their social media a little this week. Fayon Dixon, really good to talk to you as always. Really great to get your opinions on that, totally unfiltered as well. So it's nice to hear that from you, Fayon. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call if you want to join the conversation in the next hour. You can comment on anything that we were just discussing. Sounds like Sainsbury's might be a nominee for Woke of the Week this week. I'm sure you've got some of your own. I've got so many tweets to get through as well. I'm hoping that most of them aren't about my jumper. Some of them might be. And of course, any other business in the next 2 hours, you call and set the agenda. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call on Talk Radio.
Talk Radio.
Evening all, how are you? It's late night, it's Talk Radio. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call, where... I always get a bit nerve-wracked doing this, because you never know. You might never get any calls. Any other business Anything else you want to call about this hour, you can. 0344 499 1000. And now we just wait. We wait. 0344, that's a 0, 344 499 1000. Could be about COVID, could be about Sainsbury's, could have a Woke of the Week nominee. You could have Trump and the fact that he went on a little gallivant around, deciding that he wanted to go on a little tour in his car with his Secret Service agents, even though he was highly contagious with COVID, which I don't understand. So 0344 499 1000, that could be it. You could talk about Boris's speech at this conference. You could talk about whether your dog recognises your face. We had a good chat about that last night. Do you know what we've just been chatting about? You know what I've just been talking about with Sam on the Knobs and Buttons? So I'm really into Cobra Kai now. Do you know Cobra Kai? It's the Karate Kid continuation series, which is on Netflix. And it's what happens 30 years later in the Karate Kid. And bearing in mind the Karate Kid was a movie that I must have watched 1,000 times because I had it on VHS video. So I used to watch it and rewind it and watch it and rewind it and watch it and rewind it. I've just been having a conversation about Cobra Kai, which is the new series. And that's what it's called. And each episode is only about 24, 25 minutes long. And it's perfect. It is perfect because it's so quick. And Millennial Sam was just telling me what's perfect for him because he likes just to watch a very quick drama. He doesn't like, because 40 minutes, 50 minutes is too much to take on. Now, do you know, my partner is exactly the same. I show him an old episode of Dallas, right? And he's coming out in hives because it moves so slowly, the story, and everything takes so long, and even the dialogue, JR, takes forever. And but whereas nowadays everyone talks like this and it's so quickly and the storyline moves on and it moves on and it moves on and everything happens so quickly in an episode, and by the time that you've finished you feel that your brain is scrambled. And that is the thing, it's the pace of things nowadays. Like, I can't watch things like House of Cards because I can't keep up. You go for a pee and you come back and a character's died, the entire series is in a completely different direction, and you've missed 3 subplots. And that's just because you've got another little tinkle. So, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but I think that TV drama has become too fast-paced and too complicated, or I'm just getting older. 0344 499 1000 if you want to talk about that. All right, Susan's in Exeter. Hey, Susan.
Hi, Cristo. Good evening, darling. How are you?
I'm all right. How's it going, Susan?
Well, I want to talk to you about quite a lot of things. First of all, I have an idea about what Mrs. Fullpass could do regarding her 50th wedding anniversary.
Mrs. who?
Mrs. Fullpass, your mama.
Mrs. Are you calling her Mrs. Buspass?
Well, your mama.
Yeah,
mummy.
Mother F. We'll just call her Mother F.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, you said she's coming up to celebrating her 50th, her golden wedding anniversary.
50th, Mother and Father F are celebrating their 50th, 50 years married.
This is wonderful, and this is absolutely fantastic. And I've got an idea of how you could sort of organise this.
Right.
Now, you and your partner could take Mum and Dad out for to a meal, a beautiful meal.
Right.
Or you can make a beautiful meal in your house.
Yes.
With the wine, her favourite wine and all that stuff. And then you could stagger the meetings so that the other people involved, your other members of the family, could do the same.
But then where, because we live separately though, we live in different cities though.
Yes, well they'll have to come down and just isolate before they meet.
No, I don't think you're allowed to do that, because then that means you become part of a bubble, but you're not allowed to change your bubble. Or are you? I'm pretty sure you're not. Oh, it's so difficult to know.
If they live out of the city, then we'll have to postpone it till next year when things are a bit better with the COVID.
Well, now that might be what we have to do, which is a bit of a shame, because we've been talking about it for so long, but what can you do?
It is. It is a shame, but then when you get together next year, it will be even better. So we just have to put it on the back burner. But in the meantime, you and your partner can make a lovely meal for them and a lovely evening.
All right. Well, we'll think about that. We'll think about it, whether they're going to get that from us. Probably we'll do something like that. I think actually you're right. I think we've got no choice really but to spend it all separately. Where I think it's going to be a bit more of a problem to do that, though, is Christmas. Because, again, how do you do that as a family? If you're a family with more than 6 people round the table...
I know. Well, it doesn't affect me because all my people have died. But I do appreciate that people, Christmas is important to people. But
who do you spend Christmas with, Susan, then?
I usually go to a friend's, or a friend comes to me. I usually go to a friend.
Okay, so you'll be able to still do that then?
Well, I'm not really bothered because I've worked lots of Christmases and I've been on my own at Christmas. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I can't stand it, quite frankly, these days. But I know a lot of people do love Christmas, and I worry about them, and I wish them a very happy Christmas.
I like Christmas from December the 10th.
Do you?
That's the only time I allow Christmas into my life, my thoughts, or anything else. I mean, obviously I know what I'm doing by then, but what I mean is I don't put the decorations up. I don't I don't try and get excited about it. I don't buy into all the Christmas TV until around my birthday. My birthday's the 9th, and around then, if I'm having a few birthday drinks, we sometimes put the Christmas tree up for that, but that's the only time And I had a party at my house last year for my birthday, and that seems so alien now. The thought of having people over is just ridiculous, right?
I know, darling. It's very. I do worry for people because Christmas is very important to people. It's just because it's not important to me doesn't mean to say that that's the norm. It's not the norm. People love Christmas, and I want them to be happy. But it's going to be very difficult with this. But if you've got your bubble, you can have people that are in your bubble with Christmas. And I was thinking, Cristo, if you've got an elderly person around or someone who's on their own, if you could just if people out there could just take a little plate of food.
Oh yeah, we could do that, but I just think that's so depressing that there'll be so many old people on their own this Christmas.
Well, that's it. But there's always been people on their own at Christmas.
Why can't we now say? Why can't the government give the go-ahead for some of these shelters and some of these charities and some of these age charities to be able to arrange large, socially distanced Christmas lunches for old people? And if they had the notice and the venues and the capacity to do that, what would be the harm in them being able to tell the old people in the community that that's happening?
Yeah. If I could go out and help people like that, I would. I don't have a car. I wish I had a car. I'd go around and do that sort of stuff. And I wish I had a decent kitchen. I'd cook, but I've never cooked a turkey in my life. I don't like the way they're kept. They're kept en masse, and they're not treated very well. And there was a big article about it on the turkeys that are put in front. And it's just. But the thing is, Cristo, I think if anybody has an elderly relative living nearby them or someone who they think is lonely, just take a plate of food round to them. Keep things clean, which we do.
No, you're right. Leave it on the doorstep. Right, ring the doorbell. Listen, Susan, thank you. I've got to go. It's nice to talk to you. That's Susan in Exeter. I feel your pain, Susan, and I get where you're coming from, my love. Katrina feels the same way and wants to give us a call. Hey, Katrina.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for taking my call.
That's all right. Oh, bless you, Katrina. Now, you just heard what Susan had to say and about how she's worried about older people. She's just worried about a lot of things. Do you feel the same way?
I try and stay very calm and relaxed, and I'm picking up an awful lot of anxiety on other people.
Have you got the gift then? Can you sort of tell when someone's stressed? Or...
Yeah, especially when they start flaring at the nostrils.
Are you a bit psychic though? Seriously, or?
No, I guess I'm quite sensitive to people. I can sometimes tell if they're acting a bit out of character or reacting. I sort of take a little extra step back and think, whoa. What I particularly wanted to talk to you tonight was the effect that COVID's having on our children at school. Okay. Because we hear a lot about, obviously, the importance of protecting our elderly and people's, illnesses and health implications. But not everybody understands actually what it's like from children's point of view. And my grandson said something tonight, and that's what's made me want to call in.
And what did your grandson say to you tonight?
Okay, so he's only a week away from being 6, so he's in year 1. He settled in at reception last year. Fantastic. He had an amazing year, very bouncy, bubbly, confident boy. Tonight, because I help look after him because my daughter works full time and I'm obviously in their bubble, everything, because I've always looked after them. Tonight, I'm talking to him just in front of him, and he's just touched my forehead and said, "Nana, we're not allowed to talk head to head." And I said, "Oh, what do you mean?" He said, "Teacher told me, can't talk head to head. We might get the coronavirus." And said it with a bit of anxiety that I'd never seen on his little face before. So I said, "Oh, when did teacher talk to you about this? Has teacher talked to you about coronavirus?" "Yes, and 2 boys had to go on time out because they were touching people." I went, "Oh, okay, tell me about this." I said, "Were they in?" Oh, I know. I said, "Were they in your bubble group?" Because they've got, I think, it's 5, group which they can be close to. But even then, I don't know that they're allowed to be that close. And these little boys, apparently, they came over and they just touched them on the arm. I said, "Oh, show me how." And he did, with quite a gentle touch, just from the shoulder down to the elbow, almost like a stroke.
Yeah.
They both did it, and they giggled, and they did it to me and somebody else, and they ran away. So, you imagine, don't you, perhaps this little gentle game going on. And the teacher...
He's putting them in timeout.
Yeah.
Who do you blame for that?
Who
do you blame for that?
Gosh, I just...
Who were you annoyed with about that?
The virus, the situation and the laws. And I tell you another thing.
I'm glad you didn't say the teacher, because I imagine that teacher is probably between a rock and a hard place. It was like, I don't know if you saw the funeral video last week where the guy who runs the crematorium had to stop a funeral service that was taking place when the mum, who was really upset, one of her sons moved the chair next to her and started trying to comfort her, and the guy who ran the crematorium sort of ran to the front of the room and said, no, we've got to stop, unless people start socially distancing, then we've got to we'll have to stop the funeral. And I actually, everyone was like, he's a job's worth, blah blah blah, but I actually felt a bit sorry for him, because he's probably stood there saying, "Oh my God, if I stop the funeral, I'm an absolutely heartless, horrific person. But if I keep it going, I'll never be able to have another funeral because they'll shut me down." No, so I feel like maybe the teacher might be in a similar situation where if one of those kids goes home and says, "I touched another pupil today," there will probably be guaranteed to be a mum that will, or a dad that will be furious that that's been allowed to happen. But if they then intervene, well, then obviously what you're doing is you're telling a child that it's not nice to touch another child, which is the last thing that children should be worrying about. So it's just awful.
I know. Well, of course, we know more now than we did. I mean, I've done a lot of research, like lots of people, and there are many people out there know a lot more than me. But one thing I did read, it said children, I think it's under 12, rarely transmit the virus. This article, I know there'll be people there saying, but I'm telling you what I read, and it was an official, online thing. And it also said the biggest threat is in the staff room, teacher to teacher, because obviously it's transmitted, I'll say mostly, because originally they were saying it's only transmitted, but of course we know more than that now, but obviously largely it's transmitted adult to adult through droplets. Now, I just think these children are paying a huge price. Now, I had a little...
I thought that, again, and this is, I don't want to sort of fuel the misinformation, but I thought that children could pass it on, but just would be asymptomatic. It would be so lightly affected, and that's the big sort of potential problem here, because it's not so much among the children themselves getting horribly ill from it. It's more that the children themselves who will then encounter their parents who are adults, their grandparents, and it will be the potential that they could spread it to them that is the issue.
Well, again, we need to tread carefully because look, there's lots of different...
Yeah, I agree, and it seems to change daily, and it seems to
However,
also be increasingly people who are credible scientists who seem to be now disagreeing with each other.
Yes, but I'll tell you another thing I read as well on the same... wish I'd made a note of this, what I read a little while ago, but it also said... I don't remember exactly. It said children are not the super spreaders they were thought to be. Now, again, I'm not saying not at all.
Yeah.
I'm not saying not at all, but they're not the super spreaders that they were deemed to be. There was a case study, and I can remember the facts because I retained them to my memory.
Yeah.
There was that was it. 9 children who were infected with COVID.
Yep.
COVID. They mixed with 850
Yep.
students at school. Now, out of 850, how many do you think became infected from the 9?
I don't know.
2.
No, I mean, that's pretty compelling. I mean, I don't know how big the scale was, what the conditions were, how it would compare to other ones as well. But certainly, if we just took that alone, it wouldn't seem like it gets spread too much among children. I mean, the other thing that doesn't help, and
They also had mild symptoms, I'll add, sorry. They all had experienced mild symptoms.
Mild symptoms.
They all experienced mild symptoms.
And also, if people are actually immediately isolating at home when they're getting symptoms, that's okay. I guess it's just, that's why I would have perhaps liked to have seen something more of a strategy around what could have been done in this situation to prepare, i.e., do we have to have families of teachers, for instance? Should the government have been arranging for some sort of system where they could not come into contact with elderly people themselves, bubbles between the teachers and the classes? I don't know. I'm throwing around ideas. I'm not paid to come up with these ideas.
You know what? Yeah.
We knew people were returning to schools in September. We knew a second wave was coming. None of this is news, yet what seems to be, what we seem to also be returning to is the same conversations we were having back in March, with nothing having moved on, and I despair. I really do. Good to talk to you, Katrina, and I hope you stay safe, stay happy. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with more business from you, any other business, here on Talk Radio.
Talk Radio.
Evening all. Cristo, late night here on Talk Radio. Let me do some tweets because I've been terrible about those, but just to let you know, any other business, yes, you can call about anything you like. Anything you like. We've got 1, 2, 3 phone lines free. How many other radio shows nationally do you get the chance to set the agenda and to put me in my place? Tell me why you think I've been so wrong all this week. What's been the most annoying thing you've heard all this week coming from my mouth? Actually, don't start. We'll need longer than 2 hours. Okay, here we go. Hi, Cristo. I'd like to nominate Boris Johnson for Woke of the Week/Year because of his ridiculous woke speech and the fact he's agreeing to all the dangerous road changes in an effort to be green. Thank you. Chin up. Everything is a mess, but now you get 2 days with your doggies. Thank you, Mrs. L. Stephen says, have a good one, Cristo. Stephen is not very happy with Kevin. You have to take that up with Kevin, Stephen. Sorry. It's always on a Friday you wear that sweater, Cristo, says Martin Kellner fan. Absolutely. Thank you. Phil says that Lawrence Fox blocked me because I'm a twunt. What is a twunt? Oh, I dread to should we try and work the words out that make up the word twunt? I think we won't do that, but thank you, Phil. Oh, okay, I won't say that word again. Okay, what else have we got here on some of the... It's a fool or an extremely objectionable person. Well, to be told that by a Lawrence Fox fan, I think is somewhat of a compliment. Martin Kellner fan. You know what, Cristo? I'm nominating you because you won't let people talk about the Great Reset after 11. That's only because you broke Kevin. You broke Kevin O'Sullivan. Kevin O'Sullivan is a shadow of his former self. I don't know what you did to him. But no. Okay, a few more here. I'm all for anti-racism. That's a good start, Stephen. Gay rights, good. Yes, this is good. Saving the planet, yes, this is good. But you can only go to so many lectures before the message is lost and people stop listening. Yeah, I can see the point there. But it is good that you're against all of that. That shirt seriously needs to go into the bin. Says, look, why? I do not wear this every Friday for you just to talk about this every Friday. Any other business is not, let's just slag off what Cristo wears every week. That's not the feature. The feature is any other business, not any clothing business. Deep Root, here's another. Oh, I like your jumper. Stop talking about my jumper. It's very World War I ship dazzle camo pattern. Thank you for that. That jumper has positive vibes. Thank you for that one. And Coconut Cabby, I've got to your tweet, but you know what? You're on the phone, so I'll talk to you instead. Hello, Coconut Cabby.
Hello, Cristo.
How are you, Coconut Cabby?
I'm not too bad. Apparently your surname is Poopass now.
Poopass, Poo Pants, Food Face, Full Fat, Crispy Poo Pants. That was in my first radio show. Someone said, I really object to Crispy Poo Pants being on air. Seriously, someone said that.
I want to say, I've never said this, but since you've migrated here to the station of Common Sense, you really come out your show. You're amazing. You're fantastic to have on since they got rid of the numpty that was Ian Lee.
Well, I can't agree with your last statement because he was an exceptionally kind man to me, but you're very, very kind to say that. And yeah, I think that what happens with me is that most people hate me till they realise they like me, which is fine. I can live with that. But that is God's honest truth. Every time I've ever taken a radio job, I get a million people saying how much they hate me, and then half of those people come back to me and go, God, you know what? Actually, we don't hate you quite as much as we first did. And that's the best I can hope for.
If you've got people hating you, that means you're doing something right.
No, you're right. You're very, very right. And yeah, well, so I'm glad you can tolerate me now, Coconut Cabby. I think that's...
I've always tolerated you, man. I called up about Black History Month, but I wanted to... you said something about Donald Trump going around in his motorcad, and you didn't understand it. What didn't you understand about it?
Well, the fact that most people, when they are seriously symptomatic with COVID, don't tend to get into vehicles with other people unless it's absolutely necessary. And I'm not sure a circuit of the White House waving to your fans like some sort of dictator that needs to show a sign of strength is quite what you would call absolutely necessary circumstances.
Well, he had fans out there supporting him, wishing that...
Oh, thank God they got to see their great leader. Oh, thank God. Kim Jong-Trump.
Hang on. He's got people out there at the hospital that he was at. He decided to send them lots of pizzas, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to go out. And his Secret Service, or whatever you want to call them, who are paid to take a bullet, they volunteered to get in that and drive him around.
But it doesn't matter. You're the leader of the free world. It's about the message that you've given. But then again, when he goes on television 5 minutes later and says, don't be scared of COVID, there's nothing to fear. Well, I'm sure there isn't anything to fear. I'm sure there's nothing to fear when you've got your entire surgery and medical suite in the next room that you live in the White House. You've got your own helicopter to take you to one of America's best medical centres. You take a cocktail of experimental drugs that aren't available to the American public, and then you have videos that are edited to make it look like you're completely healthy when in actual fact you're fighting for breath. I would imagine, yes, in those circumstances you wouldn't be scared of COVID, but those aren't the circumstances of most of the American people.
He could catch a baby from a building and you would complain that he starved gravity of another victim.
No, I complain because he's a moron. I don't complain for any other reason than he is a moron based on his own words and his own actions. The guy is did you hear when he was actually fighting COVID doing those videos? He didn't reference anyone else other than himself for 4 minutes. 4 whole minutes, the American president in the middle of a pandemic, and he talks about himself, how he's feeling, what he's learning, how he's finding it interesting, how he feels, how it's great for him, how because it's great for the American people, because it's great for him. He's feeling good. He is strong. He's the best president ever. He is overseeing miracle drugs that are coming out because he is brilliant. 4 minutes.
We started off on a good note, and I don't want to fall out.
Sorry, but you're not going to change my mind that the guy is an absolute tool. I'm sorry, and that is just based on.
People say the same thing about you, and I still like you.
Well, I don't mind people saying it about me because I'm not the leader of the free world, and I'm not a person who's supposed to set any kind of example.
He's one of the greatest guys in the entire world.
I mean, imagine during a pandemic that's killed 200,000 of your own citizens going on television and saying, there's nothing to fear. I mean, my God, come on, Coconut Cabby. Even you've got to find that quite funny. The man's ego means he doesn't mind if people die because his ego means he just can't help it. He can't help it. It's hilarious.
A virus that if you got killed by a shark, it goes down on the statistics that you died from coronavirus. But that's not what I've called that.
All right.
We've called it about Black History Month.
Right.
I find it demeaning. I find it condescending. I find it ridiculous that to pander to my so-called black community that we are handed out a month. I look at Black History Month as an unnecessary necessity. Black history is human history. You don't have Chinese history. I don't know why you got gay history either. If you want to know about gays, you can read up. If you want to know about blacks, you can read up on it. It's like we just dished out this month to say, there you go. Here you go, be happy with that. It's ridiculous.
The logic is, and I understand where you're coming from, I do, but the logic is, and you can tell me why you think this logic is wrong in a second.
I will.
But of course the logic is, and I don't need to tell you this logic, that in our history, when a black person has achieved something, it perhaps hasn't been celebrated in an equivalent way in the way that a white person achieved something. In our history, I'd say nowadays that's very different, but I would say historically that's probably a pretty fair statement. Pretty fair statement to say that about some members of the gay community as well, and Turing being one who was appallingly treated after the Second World War, who we wouldn't have won, but he was chemically castrated and ended up committing suicide. Now, that's purely based on his sexual orientation. So the logic is, obviously, well, they weren't recognised and celebrated when they should have been, so let's take a month to remind ourselves of those people and remind ourselves to never be in that situation again. And when that logic's applied, I don't have a massive problem with it.
It's not logic. It's degrading, because if something is achieved, it's just achieved through sheer greatness. Colour should have nothing to do with it. Alan Turing was celebrated for the greatness he did, and later on we found out more about to do with the whole gayness and whatever.
Yeah, but at the time he was chemically castrated. That's how much he was celebrated, Coconut.
Yeah, but when a black person achieved something, it doesn't matter that they were black. So to have a special month is to say, look at how well these black people did, because really they shouldn't have done well, but they did so well because they're black. And the reason why I say this is when I was in school and I got my GCSEs, we were given a special award afterwards for getting our GCSEs as black people. And I found it...
Oh, okay, well, that is terrible. See, I don't view it in a condescending way. I view it in a way just to go...
You don't.
Because I get why people see it as condescending. I get why people like Morgan Freeman and you say, look, you know what, you can keep it, thanks, because it doesn't actually do much good.
Cristo, if you was to win an award, if someone said, oh, look at this gay guy, let's give him an extra award because he managed to achieve being a gay. It alludes to you being less able because you're gay or something. So
but you're talking about in modern times, and in modern times you're probably right. But historically, Coconut, if you have, what's your real name, Coconut? Because I feel weird calling you Coconut.
You added me on Facebook the other day. I'm Martin.
Martin, great, Martin. If now I've asked your name, I forgot what I was going to say. The problem is, the issue is, though, that when those things that you are talking about were being achieved years ago, right, you're right. If we're talking about achievements today, I think it's a different ballpark. But years ago, those black people you were talking about who achieved things, it wasn't acknowledged that much back then. It wasn't celebrated so much back then. Like, you know, Alan Turing, the most famous gay example, you're right, nowadays we celebrate him, but we do because of things like Gay History Month. Now, if back at the time, there was no celebration of Alan Turing, and the reason was because he was gay. What Alan Turing got was chemically castrated. So for me, This is just a time to say, well, look, this is how dreadful we were back then. It's not like that now, and we acknowledge it's not like that now by taking a moment to just remember the people we should have remembered properly back then.
No, because when you add the extra label of because they're black or because they're gay, you take away from the success. So you say it's degrading to have to add this extra label, and we keep on harking back to the past. We live in the present time right now. I don't need to hear that this person who achieved something, it was an extra special award because they've got.
No, it's not. That's not how it's seen. No. I don't. Because you're misunderstanding me. You're misunderstanding the most fundamental point I'm making, Martin. I promise you are. Let me just say this, because you're misunderstanding me.
Well, let me get to the end of a sentence. By you keep on giving caveats or keep giving excuses to having this extra award of Black history or whatever, you're taking away. We don't need it. It shouldn't be there. We should be arguing against it because we're all equals now. Fair enough in the past, when black people were oppressed or when gay people were oppressed, we needed to talk about it back then. But we do not need to talk about it now. And if we keep on talking about it, we keep on alluding to black being a disability or being gay as a disability, and we've moved past that now. We need to move on. Okay,
you've misunderstood, though, what I am alluding to when I say about why we need those particular.
I'm black, how dare you?
Yes, I know. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. You're quite right. No, you think it's a special award because they're black or because they're gay. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's an acknowledgement that they should have had back then that they didn't get because they are black or because they're gay. So far from it being an extra thing bestowed on them, it is not. We're giving back to them what they had taken away from them at the time because they were black or gay. And that's how I view it. I don't view that, oh my God, it's great, look, that person achieved something because they're black. No, what I see it as is that person didn't get the recognition they deserved back then because they're black, and so they're getting it today instead.
Cristo, but I'm talking about today. I'm not talking about 50 years ago. I'm talking about now. We've got Black History Month now, and I'm annoyed, and you were talking about Lawrence Fox. I haven't looked into what he's in trouble about. But if we're talking about today, we should not have a Black History Month anymore. There shouldn't be any gays, because it suggests that blacks and gays are hampered in today's society, which is, in my experience, is just demonstrably incorrect.
Okay, and how would you stop us repeating then those mistakes of the past where we would not have acknowledged certain sectors of society on an equal level to other members of society based on their race or their gender or their sexual orientation or whatever else? How can we, if it isn't something like Black History Month or Gay History Month where we take the figures who were not properly acknowledged back then, how would you learn from history so that those things don't happen again? Because the horrible feeling I have is if we were to get rid of Black History Month or Gay History Month, far from those people you're talking about being, visible on an equal footing to others, I worry that actually it would lead to them becoming more diminished and the mistakes of the past being repeated.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but the fact that we keep on treating different races and different sexualities as though they're different in today's world has led to an increased problem because we keep banging on about it. We've now got the rise of BLM, we've got the rise of Antifa, we've got all this constant focus on the differences between people, when if we was to focus on everyone being the same and get rid of these things, we wouldn't go back to that. But we keep on heading back in this negative direction because we veered off so far in the other direction that it's causing a problem.
Now on that, I agree with you. On that, I completely agree with you. And there was something happened, and I've been guilty of this myself, that this idea, I've done it myself. I've done it myself on the radio where, you're against gay marriage, you must be homophobic. You're against Black History Month, you must be racist. I've been really guilty of that in the past where it's this immediate knee-jerk of banding around these sort of accusations when in actual fact what you don't do in all those situations, or what I've not tended to do in those situations, probably blinded a little bit by my own struggles in the past, probably blinded a little bit by my anger over those. I've perhaps not shut up and listened
Well, someone's phoning me, but
That's all right.
The thing I get as a cab driver is like, if I get a drunk gay customer, and they always feel that they have to tell me that they're gay, and I always feel I don't need to tell you that I'm straight. I don't care what your sexuality is, just like you don't care what my sexuality is. If people stop banging on about these problems, they go away.
Yeah, but I tell you why. But can I tell you, as someone who's been that person, can I just say, right? If you've had a big part of yourself, and I get it because I roll my eyes now at myself having done it, but you know, sometimes I have to look back on myself and give myself a bit of compassion because, you know, I've done that myself. And what it is when you have lived with a part of yourself that is so secret and you've been so ashamed of in the past, and you felt a disproportionate amount of shame about that, when you have finally had the courage to tell people about that and to no longer live with that secrecy, and you know, we need to walk a mile in other people's shoes at the moment and find out why they might have had that secrecy, why they might have grown up in a situation where they couldn't reveal who they were. Sometimes you need that validation from a stranger. Sometimes I can't tell you what it used to do for me when I would tell a straight person that I was gay, when I was so insecure about it, and they would be okay about it. And now, looking back on it, I was doing precisely what you're talking about. I would feel the need to drop into conversation that I'm gay so that people still liked me afterwards. I'm being really honest. And to you, it might come across as a gay person or someone of another minority going, oh my God, why are they always going on about it? But what they're desperately looking for is the validation, and for you to actually not bat an eyelid. And that's just, I'm just trying to explain that.
But I just feel we've got to a point now where if we truly want equality, we should give everything equally. So having a Black History Month is a step too far, in my opinion, in today's world. I want true equality, so I don't want people banging on about their individual special treatment. And the sooner we get past that, I think the better for everyone. We're not living in the medieval times anymore, so let's just get on.
All right, I get the sentiment of what you're saying. My only worry about it is, as I said, that it might just lead us as a society in 10, 20, 30 years' time to make the same mistakes again. And then we'll be talking about bringing these things back. But I take what you're saying. I totally see where you're coming from, in as much as we seem to spend an awful lot of time nowadays, and we seem to have done over. Yeah, just talking about what separates us and talking about why we're different, and talking about, and I also think as well that what that's meaning is that things that people never used to object to, Black History Month, no one used to object to it. No one used to object to Gay History Month. But now, unfortunately, now those things are now associated with things like Black Lives Matter, which are toxic, or things like the toxicity around some of the gay and trans debates. And now those things have almost been dragged into something, whereas I don't think a few years ago people had a problem with Black History Month or Gay History Month. But I think since we've all become a little less cohesive, and since we've all been talking about our differences so much, now even those good things are being criticised. And you're the demonstration of that.
Well, if anyone's going to criticise it, I think it should be people that are from those communities.
You're right, because you have the absolute right to. You have the absolute right to.
So do you. This is the thing. I don't want to be able to criticise it just because I'm from that so-called community. We should all equally be able to say what we think without being accused of being a racist or a bigot or a homophobe or whatever.
Yeah, as long as, though, the only issue with that, and I completely agree, absolutely 100%, is that shouldn't mean that we allow racists or homophobes off the hook. And I think it's much better to sort of talk and listen a lot more than you find out what someone's real intentions are. And there might be some all sorts of credible reasons why you're against those things. There might be reasons based in racism and homophobia why you're against those things.
How do you think you would ever cure racism? I don't think you can ever cure it, but by attacking people who have racist thoughts, it's just going to make it worse.
I've given this a lot of thought this week. I've had a bit of an epiphany this week, because I was thinking about, you're so right, Cabby, Coconut, Martin, whatever name you've got at the moment, in as much as I've been thinking a lot about language and about a term I've used myself, and that is white privilege. And
that's a nonsense in my opinion, but yeah, go on.
Well, you see, the way I see white privilege is that it is I think privilege is the wrong word. So I've got to go to a break. So I'm so late. I think privilege is the wrong word. I think
you've got majority privilege is what it should be called.
Yes. I think that's what it should be called, or not even privilege. Just actually one less thing to worry about. And my worry is that
you said you've got a break to go to. If you live in Nigeria and you're a millionaire, then what is that, black privilege?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've made that point myself before. Absolutely, 100% correct. And my point about language like that is it makes people feel like they've won the argument. Well, there you go. Look, that's white privilege. But does it make one less person racist? And I would say, no, it doesn't. If anything, it might actually inflame the situation and make people think, exactly. Well, hang on, if you could use that kind of language. So picking up on your point, you're right. What do people want? Do people want to win the argument, or do they want a society with less discrimination? And I'm not always sure the two of those are compatible. And I think that's where the problem lies. Really good to talk to you, Martin. I think we put the world to rights quite well there, and we sort of didn't disagree massively, but we sort of did. 14 minutes to midnight. More of your calls coming up. Any other business here on Talk Radio.
Online, on DAB, and on the Talk Radio app. Talk Radio.
Elif, I haven't got my laptop tonight, so will you do me a favour? Oh, here we go. She's rolling her eyes. She's not happy. Listen, all the Woke of the Week nominees, will you put them all on a piece of paper for me? Because I've not got the laptop tonight.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because I think we've got quite a few now. I don't think I'm nominated this week for Woke of the Week, thank goodness.
You are?
But am I?
Yeah.
Why am I nominated again?
You're not doing whatever it was after
For not doing the Great Reset.
Yeah.
I can't be nominated formally for that. And also Boris has been nominated for his conference. We don't put everyone who's nominated on the list. Also William nominated. We've got so many nominees. Sainsbury's. We'll put them all on the list with the stories and we'll see. And you can still send in some nominations. We'll do them after midnight, the Woke of the Week, all right? 0344 499 1000. Paul, by the way, on the subject that Sean called about, because we're doing Any Other Business. And Sean very passionately wanted to discuss what was going on with Sainsbury's and Black History Month. Was vehemently against it. And Paul in South Wales says, how about unsung people from History Month? So you can teach about any minority or any person from history that wasn't acknowledged because of whatever reason. That's quite a good idea, Paul. Thank you. Phil is in Milton Keynes. Any other business, Phil? Hello.
Yeah, good evening. Just one unrecognised hero. You there?
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, you're still there. Sorry, the screen went black. Can you hear me okay, by the way?
I can hear you fine.
Oh, good. Tommy Flowers. He was the guy that invented the actual first electronic computer.
Did he?
At Bletchley Park, yes. He was a humble GPO engineer, electronics engineer. As you know, the brainchild was from Alan Turing, of course. Yes. But it was Tommy Flowers that created the first electronic computer, which was basically a series of vacuum valves, diodes, which are just basically on-off switches. And in fact, it always amuses me because, I'm a sort of heterosexual. And apparently, I've surveyed the whole of Bletchley Park, by the way, in the past.
Right.
I was a surveyor there, so I've always had a personal interest in Bletchley Park. But one of the things that always amused me as a healthy heterosexual was that during World War II, the Wrens, the Navy, the girls, because of all these vacuum valves, the diodes, the amount of heat that was emitted from them, they actually had to work in their underwear.
Oh,
which always appealed to me.
I bet it did.
But as you know, Cristo,
yes.
Alan Turing and a number of the other people there were quite gay.
Yeah.
But that's another story. But
they wouldn't have appreciated it then, really, would they?
Well, exactly.
Actually, in fairness, they wouldn't have appreciated anything. They'd all been chemically castrated. They probably had no motivation for anyone, unfortunately.
But I'll tell you what I was really ringing up about, though,
yes.
Cristo. Because there's a real fascinating story about that Bletchley Park I'd love to talk to you about, but not another night.
All right.
But getting back, though, to the serious subject, it's been frustrating me all week. I've been trying desperately to get through to Talk Radio. For whatever reason, I haven't been able to. But the thing is, this whole COVID business Cristo. You know, the credibility of the severity of this and the seriousness. I know you personally are very worried because you sort of honestly sort of say, well, you know, I'm a bit overweight and I'm really worried for myself.
Yeah,
I totally understand that. But the thing is, Cristo, the reality is there's something that people need to understand. The 2 previous years to 2020, they had exceptionally low excess mortalities, fatalities from flu, seasonal flu. You know, so if you took, for example, on the average year, there was 20,000 flu deaths in this country.
Mm-hmm.
This would be anything between 15 and 20. But if you say 20,000, just as an example, now you would always get that regular thing, the seasonal flu, and it effectively affects the over 75s. So the vast majority, you know, is obviously related to pneumonia. Now the thing was, there were 2 very low seasons, and of course then we had this season coming up, and of course you've got this massive spike or increase. But the thing is, if you follow nature, you know, Mother Nature always provides these viruses, you know, each and every year. And, you know, that's there for a purpose, and it is to create balance. You know, that's very much a fundamental thing of you know, the whole balance of the planet. So
yeah, but we medically intervene to sometimes not have that balance kill us.
Say again?
We medically intervene to not have that balance kill us with viruses. You're right, Mother Nature does come up with all sorts of viruses, but with quite a few of them, we medically intervene so that people don't die, right?
Well, indeed, but again, there's the separate argument on that, of course, is that, you know, should you be constantly interfering with Mother Nature? You know, because she throws these viruses there for a purpose, and it is there to do a cull, essentially, of, you know, sorting the wheat from the chaff, you know, get rid of the old dead wood.
But if we took your suggestion to the nth degree, well then, you know, should we close A&E?
No, not at all. No.
Why do we need doctors? Why do we just let viruses? Let the planet get itself sorted. No, but that's the logic of what you're saying, though, Phil. You're saying, look, some viruses are there. They're supposed to sort of get you, and Mother Nature provides them, and at the end of the day, some of them are going to. It's their balancing way of kind of getting the population under control. Did I misunderstand you?
Yes, essentially. But the thing is, this is the point. This is not exceptional. This is not exceptional. This does not justify all these radical restrictions that we've had imposed upon us. This is not an exceptional event. It really is not. I've said this so many times. In '68, you had 80,000 excess deaths from the Hong Kong flu. We've only had 41,000 so far. You know, that is not exceptional. And the other thing is.
But when was the Hong Kong flu?
In '68.
60. I mean, should we not be aiming for a higher standard of medical intervention than from 1968?
Well, that's a separate argument, though.
With then respect. Why? Well, but then with respect, why are you bringing up what happened in 1968?
No, I'm making the point that in '68 there was absolutely no restrictions. Nobody was aware that there was. You know, we knew that there was an extra.
I understand. Amount. So there were zero restrictions. So therefore, that was the number that died with it going through the population. But however, the other problem is here, Phil, and you know we're up against it for time, but the other problem here is that we have a very different demographic of population and a very different density of population than we did in 1968, and a very just smaller population than we did in 1968. So I'm not sure a direct comparison, but I get the point you're making. We've got to go. Thank you very much indeed. That's Phil. Coming up in the next hour, we'll go through some of your Woke of the Week nominations, and we'll also, we'll have the phone line still open to you for any other business. That's all coming up late night on Talk Radio.
Talk Radio.
Day, October 10th. It's Cristo, late night here on Talk Radio with you until 1 o'clock. It's the Any Other Business Hour. You can call about anything you like. We're also doing our Woke of the Week nominations. Oh no, I left my list in the other room. Oh no, I've got it here. It's fine. Honestly, not having my laptop. Honestly, I'm despairing of myself. shall we do the Woke of the Week nominations? So we start with this week's Woke of the Week nominations. Yes, you will hear these suggestions and you will decide, are they overly woke? And you will nominate them for the Wokest Woke of the Week. Here on Woke of the Week, we will start with Sainsbury's and their controversy around Black History Month and saying they're providing a safe space for their black colleagues in response to the Black Lives Matter movements. Overly woke, or do you think a masterstroke? 0344 499 1000 if you wish to nominate Sainsbury's. Or could it be Rihanna that is nominated for Woke of the Week? She's been forced to apologise to the Muslim community for unintentionally offensive use of sacred texts during a lingerie fashion show. The singer and fashion designer had come under fire after using a song featuring a sample from Islam's sacred hadith texts during her 2020 Savage X Fenty event. I don't even know what those words mean. Muslim fans accused Rihanna of disrespecting their religion. Rihanna chose to apologise. If Rihanna is your Woke of the Week, vote Rihanna. Is it Prince William? Yes, Prince William and Sir David Attenborough, they've joined forces to launch what they hope will become a Nobel Prize for environmentalism. They say the search is on for 50 solutions to the world's gravest environmental problems. The Earthshot Prize as a £50 million award over a decade. William and the environment. Woke of the Week for you? 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Maybe the Woke of the Weeks are old people. Yes, the over 60s have been told to report on the phrases that they have been used, what's the word? Said against them, insulted with. And apparently these words are things like geriatric and over the hill. Old people would like the term geriatric to be banned. Do we put the elderly on Woke of the Week? If so, vote for old people. And you know what? That is enough of the Woke of the Week nominees. We're not doing the final one. We're not throwing in Boris. We're not throwing in old people. Are we putting me in? Are we still doing me? God, this tune, honestly, it's been on loop. I'm going to be going home with Sale of the Century in my head. Okay, the final nominee is me, and I don't know who has nominated me, so where are we with that one? I would like to nominate Cristo for Woke of the Week for yet again banning something or someone he doesn't agree with. Yeah, that's because I didn't want to allow the Great Reset as a conversation, and that's mainly for my mental health more than anything else, but you can put me on there. So, we'll put the list on the board. The list for Woke of the Week is Sainsbury's, old people, Rihanna, Prince William, and me, Cristo. Please vote now, and we'll see how the votes are going over the course of the programme. I think the point your caller about nature making viruses come up with was that if we intervene by stopping people dying, nature will find another way, like exploding volcanoes and starting earthquakes, says Mark. I'm not sure the one's related to the other, but yeah, I'm not sure I get that point, but thank you very much indeed. Stephen has sent me a text saying, we don't say hetero people are privileged because they don't have to suffer homophobia. They hardly wake up every day thinking how lucky they are and don't receive life's benefits that make their lives easier than it ordinarily would. Well, that's why I think the conversation needs to be framed that you say to straight people, all you have is one less thing to worry about in certain situations. Because that's all it is. And I think you're right when you attribute words like privilege, which I've used myself in the past, but because there's such a negative connotation with privilege, I'm starting to get less and less happy about using that word. All right, let's talk to Elaine in Greater Manchester. Hello, Elaine. Hello, Elaine. Oh, no, I don't think we've got Elaine. Elaine seems to be grappling with her phone at the moment, so I'm not sure we're going to be able to get her. Should we try again? Elaine, are you there again?
I am, darling.
Oh, you're there. All right. Sorry, we couldn't find you before.
It's not a very clear line. I don't know why.
I don't know why.
But, you asked somebody earlier.
Yeah.
Is she psychic?
If she's psychic, yeah.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yeah.
I don't know what was the reason, but
She said that she could sense people's anxiety, if I remember rightly.
Oh, right.
And I said, "Oh, how do you know that? Are you a bit psychic?" She says, "I am a bit psychic."
I didn't hear the full conversation, but I did hear you say, "Are you psychic?" Well, that's something that I struggled with. My brother, I recognised at an early age he was gay.
Oh, right.
I used to, he was bullied, shocking.
Right.
And I used to use my spending money to keep lads off him because he bullied him.
Oh,
at school.
well, that's a good sister you are, Elaine.
And earlier than that, I was the eldest of 6 children, and we had a shop. We obviously lived in the residential part, but at the top was a room, and it was just full of large boxes. Now, my very little brother, he was only about 5, ran into my mum and dad's, told him he'd messed with him, and my dad put him in this room with boxes, no bed, no nothing. He was really punished for messing with my little brother, and he was petrified. And I used to go up to check on him. Nobody bothered with him. He was ostracised. Later on, this is the psychic bit, he was 18 months younger than me, and it was a school dance. I was about 13, maybe 14. And I called him back. I was listening to the radio, and I've sang this with you, Al Green, Tired of Being Alone. Right. You might remember, I don't know. And it was the first time I'd ever heard it. I was getting ready for the school dance. And I called him back. I don't know why. And I put his name and address on the ticket. I got to the school. There was 2 detectives. This is giving my age away. And they had like long beige coats on. And they held this ticket out to me covered in blood. Is this your brother? And I collapsed.
What happened to him?
This is what's really staring me all my life now. And I got to home. They took me home in the police car, and I just battered on the door. And what had happened, he was going to see. He was only the age of about, well, he was 18 months. He must have been about 12, something, 12 and a bit. And he got off an open back bus. And he walked in front of a truck and going to meet his gay partner. And none of us were allowed to go and see him. Fractured skull, pelvic, he was just in a bad way.
Yeah.
And I didn't see him. To be honest, his recovery was very long. And when he came to see me next, I was married. I didn't see him.
What do you mean when he came to see you? So he'd seen you, you saw him after he died?
He didn't want anybody to see him. And when he came to see me, I was married.
Right.
And he asked me, would I help him with a hair transplant? He was so ashamed of the way he looked. He came to see me in the dark, and I got a loan at that time.
So he survived the crash? He survived the crash?
I don't know how. His everything, his head, his face.
Oh no! And is he still alive now?
He lives in Amsterdam now. He met somebody and he lived in a house.
And do you still speak to him?
No, he doesn't speak to anybody in the family. I haven't seen. The last I saw of him was when I was pregnant. He brought me a green and white teddy because he knew I loved green.
And
and
why
he
does he
asked me
not speak to you now, do you think?
I don't know. The last I saw of him was at one of my mother's parties. She was 60. Oh. And he turned up with an air pilot.
And how long ago was that then?
Oh, gosh. Oh, years ago now. Yeah, I'm going back years. And he turned up with this massive air pilot, and he became very promiscuous, if you like.
Right.
And I never heard from him anyway. He came to ask my help, bought this teddy bear, and he said, can I move in because my landlady's thrown me out because I'm gay. And she's seen men come to my house, to the house. So, I've gone through it with him. But I was always there for him because I knew from a very early age. But nobody else recognised it until my little brother complained when he was younger. You know, young.
Yeah.
And
do you think he was touching? Do you think he was touching your little brother?
Sorry, darling.
Do you think he was touching your little brother?
I've seen my brother. He's married with children and that.
Sure.
But nobody has ever spoke about that situation. Yeah. Nobody has ever uttered a word. The others were too young to know about it anyway.
Well, it's a shame. I mean, I don't know how you feel about not seeing him. I mean, obviously, if there was some impropriety with your little brother, then, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad thing not to see him. But it is a shame if that turns out not to be true, that he's living all the way in Amsterdam. But what an amazing story. Elaine, thank you. It's Elaine in Greater Manchester. Sylvia is in Yorkshire. Hello, Sylvia.
Hello, Cristo. Well, listening to that lady's story, I would just make a quick comment first to what I want to talk about. You want to do a programme about young children that have been abused and it's being swept under the carpet, but it's just come alight. It's the Church of England.
Yeah, well, we've done it before, but we haven't done it recently. But you're right, and it never, ever gets forgotten. It
is, Christo, these people, it affects them all their lives.
Yeah.
But I do think it wants being brought in the open. But what I've wrong about, Christo, is that really the coronavirus.
Yeah.
And Boris Johnson is going to make an announcement on Monday. But really, I don't agree with the stuff that he's going to come out with. I think it's going to wreck this country, whether it's jobs, pubs, restaurants, football, theatre. I am from the person that I would say to carry on normal and not have this lockdown, because there's going to be more people with mental health, depression, with no idea. I've listened to your programme this week, and you've had one or two people, and you can tell by the tone of their voices, some don't want to get out of bed, Christo, if they are in lockdown, because they think there's nothing to look forward to.
I think you're right. I think that we're at a crossroads, and I really fear for what we're going to do next, because the only option seems to be, well, like I said, sort of dead slow or stop. We either allow a virus to run riot without the preparation for it, or we don't allow it to run riot, but then we run riot on our economy and on other conditions that are being neglected. So I feel like we're screwed one way or screwed the other, and I feel like by now there should have been a third way. There should have been a way that Boris could offer to us that wouldn't have involved locking down, and I don't understand why we've had 6 months. We've had 6 months.
This is it, Christo. We've already had a lockdown, and people are thinking, what are we going to do every time it rises up? Are we going to hide away?
Well, that appears to be the strategy. And I got it. I got the first lockdown. I thought actually the first lockdown should have been sooner. But that was a lockdown we could all go, okay, right, we didn't know as much as we know back then, and we didn't know how serious it was, and we didn't know who it would affect, and we didn't know how it would move through the population, and we didn't know how effective social distancing was. But we're supposed to know all that now. We're supposed to have all of that completely nailed and know, okay, we don't have a cure, but we know a hell of a lot more than we did.
Well, we behaved ourselves, Christo. We wore our masks, we spaced our distance, but I think and I also, a lot of people are calling student snowflakes, but to have people banged up, 3 or 4, 5 of them, you can't beat being in the open air, fresh air, than being stuck in rooms. And I don't care who you are.
Well, you're paying thousands for it as well, remember? They're paying
Eh?
for it. Well, they're paying thousands to be stuck in those rooms as well.
It's absolutely terrible. But, you know, I've read an article today, Umberto, and I could cry for them. It's people that are in homes, either suffering with dementia or what have you.
Well, again,
they've not had no visitors since March, and all they can see them is behind a glass window and wave to them.
The thing is, they should have had a strategy for this. They should have had a strategy for this. And again, whether it was right, come September, if the R rate is rising, then we have 5 people who work for that care home that are constantly assigned to that care home. They have a hotel next to that care home. They are the only ones that are in the bubble of that care home, and that no one else can see them, so that therefore at least that care home was protected. At the moment, we're sort of, I just don't understand. And when you don't understand, that's when you start to roll your eyes and not want to follow rules. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but
Umberto, Cristo, that his wife can see the hairdresser and she does her hair, and other people come in. But why can't he go in?
Yeah. I know, I don't get it. I don't understand why I can go to the pub with 5 other people and sit at a table nearby another 5 other people and another 6 other people, but I can't go to a funeral with my nearest and dearest.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, this is what's wrong, Cristo. There's too many mixed messages.
Yeah.
People don't know where they're up to. And really, I've said to you, when I've come on a few weeks ago, I believe in living your life. Live your life, and you know, because last year we didn't talk about coronavirus. What do you think we were talking about? Flu.
Brexit.
Yeah.
Brexit. We were talking about Brexit, Sylvia. That's all we spoke about for 2 years, I'm afraid, my love. Nothing else. God, you know what? I miss Brexit. Do you ever think you'd hear those words from my mouth? I miss Brexit. Bring on Brexit. Bring on the conversation. Bring on no deal.
Well, we're all fed up of it.
Now I'm desperate to talk about Brexit. I'm desperate to talk about something else. Sylvia, I got to go. Nice to talk to you. Bye-bye. Do you want to... Oh, I didn't get a vote for Woke of the Week. Sainsbury's, old people, Rihanna, Prince William, or me for Woke of the Week. Me, because I'm not allowing any more Great Reset conversation. Prince William, because of his new environmental prize. Rihanna, for having to apologise to the entire Muslim population. Old people, because they want the word geriatric banned. Or Sainsbury's for their Black History Month controversy. Vote now for those, and we'll take some more of your calls coming up late night here on Talk Radio.
Talk Radio.
Morning all. Got some nominations here for our Woke of the Week. Now, Chris, I can't find yours. I'm so sorry. I can't find where your nomination is, Chris. You sent it to me absolutely ages ago, and I now can't find it. So I'm really sorry, Chris. But I've got some other ones here. We have a nomination for Woke of the Week. No, Ken Moore. It's not going to be a nominee of one of my previous guests. That's just not going to happen. Someone else is nominating me for Woke of the Week for yet again banning something or someone that I don't agree with. Listen, if you're going to tweet me, don't send me 100 tweets in a row. I love you dearly, but you're sending me conspiracy theory tweets, tin hot stuff, and it's quite difficult to actually retweet on anything else when you do that. Chris, I found your nomination, Prince William. So Chris has got Prince William. Not content with being the future king, he now fancies himself as some sort of environmentalist, despite having a carbon footprint the size of a market town. Thank you very much indeed for that one. And I think that's all for nominations right now. Oh, is it Mrs. L? You're also furious we didn't put Boris Johnson on the list as well. So I'll put Boris on there as well for you. And you want Boris on there because of the fact that you are annoyed about all of the low traffic neighbourhoods and everything else. All right, let's go back to the phone lines. Janet is here from the Jumper Factory. What earth are you talking about? That's
Hello.
a joke, clearly. Oh, ye
Hello.
gods. Mother.
Good evening, darling.
Right, firstly, step back from the camera, Mother. I can see where you do some electrolysis.
Okay, how's that?
A bit further back.
Chris, if I go any further back, I'll end up in the fish pond. Behave yourself.
Well, I was thinking a bit further back, sort of more like Hemel Hempstead, that far back.
Oh, shut up.
Why are you calling me at work?
Just wanted to have a chat. We never seem to chat nowadays.
I went and saw you a week ago. I saw you at home. I came to see you. We had a lovely lunch. Why are you calling me at work? Why?
Because I didn't get to talk to you very much, because I was running round cooking lunch. And apart from anything else, Strictly's back this weekend. Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Oh God, I'm not doing that again. I'm not explaining to you the same-sex couple thing because you got so confused with that last time. I had to leave the room in frustration.
Cristo, you've done it over text more than you've done anything else, and I can't understand what the problem is.
There's not a problem. There's just going to be a same-sex... Why did you say you're from the jumper factory? What are you talking about?
Because I've seen what you're wearing, love.
What's wrong with what I'm wearing?
I don't think they would accept it for any of the refugees way out where.
So are you saying I'm dressed like an asylum seeker about to make a crossing?
No, darling, they dress better.
Thank you. That's really, really kind of you to say that. Thanks very much.
I thought you'd thrown that jumper out.
This is designer. Do you know this jumper was a fortune? I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for this jumper.
Well, I think you were robbed.
What is wrong with you? What's wrong with... Why? Just go away. Why are you ringing me at work?
It's not nice.
What's wrong with it? It's a jazzy pattern. It's
yes, exactly.
Right. Well, that's
you
nice.
had a lovely jumper on the other day. It was plain. It looked lovely, and you looked so good in it.
I think I look quite good in this jumper. Why is that?
Not from where I'm sitting.
What are you drinking?
Well, I'm not drinking anything.
I can see a glass, Mum.
It's only a little drop of gin.
How much gin is in that?
Not that much.
How much gin is in that?
About a finger or two.
Yeah, I don't believe you. There'll be a finger or two of tonic. I'm still in shock when we found that you'd been cutting down. Do you remember when you told us you were cutting down on gin? Do you remember?
Yes, and I kept to it.
No, what you'd done is you'd swapped the gin and the tonic around in the bottle. So when you were pouring out your gin from the bottle and you were saying, just a little drop of gin for me, I'm not having much, it was actually tonic. And then when you were filling up with tonic, it was actually the gin. And that's why you were having 9 parts gin to 1 part tonic. And you were telling us, oh, I'm drinking less gin, oh, I'm so healthy now.
Well, it kept me going.
3 sheets to the wind is disgusting.
But you have to remember that I was bringing you up, which was traumatic.
Oh, thanks. That's nice. You never used to give me gin when I was little, did you? You know those parents that sort of, dip their finger in the gin and give it to the baby. You never did that, did you?
So let's get on to Strictly.
Right. Okay.
What's happening with Strictly?
Nicola Adams is going to be partnered with another woman. That's basically it. So it's going to be a same-sex partnership. And I was saying last week that I'm not sure Strictly is the place for a same-sex partnership because it's a dance competition, and how can you judge a male-female couple the same as you would then judge a female-female couple? Because there's a male part and there's a female part, but if there was a same-sex couple, it will be the two same sexes. So who would you judge as the man and who would you judge as the woman vis-a-vis the other couples that you are judging?
Because do you want me to explain what I think how you would know?
Well, I don't know if I need it explained to me how I would know, but go on. You've chosen to ring me on the radio station I work on.
Well, it's the only place I can get your full attention.
That's because I've got you blocked on my mobile. Sorry, go on.
When you're in a ballroom hold...
Yes.
Right. A man holds a woman differently from the way a woman holds a man.
Yes.
So you will be able to tell if two men dancing or two women are dancing, you will be able to tell who is dancing the male part and who is dancing the female part.
So who decides who's dancing? So one of them has to dance like a man?
Yes.
Right, well, who's going to dance like a man out of the two females?
Well, it's up to the females to decide. We live in a very liberal society, you know.
But then you've got a situation where potentially the reason that she would want to dance with another female was because, well, I don't know. So what, she's going to learn the male part just because she's a lesbian?
It's up to her.
So if I was ever asked to be on Strictly then, Mum, and I said, right, I'm going to have a same-sex partner, so that would be okay. So I would then take the female part, would I? And I would have to then learn the female ropes with that male partner just because I'm gay. To me,
No.
that's more offensive than just having a male-female couple.
No.
Why?
Because you would make the choice yourself which partner you wanted to be.
Yes.
You might choose to be the male and then the other guy take the female part.
So what then? So the professional dancer who's danced male all his life would now have to take a part as female so that I felt more comfortable about being the male in a same-sex partnership when I could have just danced with a girl in the first place if I wanted to be the male.
But I think they're trying to make a statement, and in any case, if that was the situation, it would just prove what a fantastic dancer the professional is, if he can dance the female part as well.
But the only reason I've got a fella dancing the female part is because I'm gay. Well, then that's a stereotype in itself. So what, gay people have to do the female parts, do they?
Not necessarily.
Just because Nicola's a lesbian, she has to do the male part. That's more offensive than just having a man and a woman.
It depends on whether she thinks of herself as the more male part of the lesbian relationship or the female part.
Then why do we have to get into that? Well, the fact we even have that stereotype, some people will be offended by. So you see, this idea about trying to be inclusive, which is ultimately well-intentioned, you've actually flagged up potentially more problems. And at the end of the day, did we need it to be Strictly that did this show? I mean, you can throw a stick at the television nowadays and you hit a gay person that's on there. So did it?
So they had it on that Dancing with Ice last year.
Well, exactly. And who was the man and who was the woman in that one? And also, is ice dancing when you dance when you do ice dancing? Is there a male and a female role?
Yes.
Well, then who was the female in the ice dancing?
I can't remember. He's from Steps.
Besides which, we're being transphobic, aren't we now?
Oh, God, Cristo, you're so complicated.
I'm not, because now we're trying to attribute traditional gender roles to Strictly and Dancing on Ice. Well, those traditional gender roles are actually now quite offensive to some people. What if you're non-binary?
Oh, I don't know.
You see? You might think you're all equality, but what is proven that you are by being in favour of the same-sex couple, it's actually proven how homophobic you are, Mum.
You're calling me homophobic? You're calling me homophobic? But I'm the mother of a gay man. How can you call me homophobic?
Because you have just attributed traditional male and female gender roles to gay members of society. Some of those members of society might be non-binary. And what you've done is you've caused great offence to those people. You've marginalised them. You've robbed them of their agency. And you've proved your own bigotry.
Get off your soapbox and
you
just
see?
live. Just get off your soapbox and live.
I think you just need to apologise to everyone for your discrimination that you've shown, for your intolerance that you've shown.
I have not shown intolerance. I think I'm very inclusive. I'm a member of an operatic company.
God, we would never have known from the fact that you're wearing a turban and leopard skin that you're a member of an operatic company. God, what a shock that is to us all.
Shut up. And what about Trump?
What about Trump?
What about him?
What about him?
Have you not been following the news? He's had 3-day COVID. I've never heard of anyone.
No, he's better now. He's better, but they're sort of editing it. So
he said he's had 3-day COVID.
Yeah, well, I mean, good God, you can see it. I mean, you may as well go and talk to the pot plant in the corner. You'll get more sense out of it and more honesty. I mean, I wouldn't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. And a better colour. I don't know what colour he is now he's come out from COVID. He's like mahogany. Honestly, he's sort of... If Dale Winton and Kat Slater had a child, it would be Donald Trump.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Yeah, I can indeed. But oh God, I don't like your jumper. Anyway,
Stop slagging off my jumper. Right, are we done now?
I don't know. Are we? I was quite enjoying having a conversation.
I think I've had enough now. I mean, it's always lovely to talk to you and everything. But when was the last time you called it? 2 months ago? 3 months? Something like that?
Probably about 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago.
No, we don't have. Well, we've got another caller to get. I'm so sorry. We've got some more calls to get to. So sorry.
No, but hang on.
No, it's a shame.
I haven't finished. It's our wedding anniversary coming up.
Yes, I know.
Well, Dad and I are thinking of getting married again.
Sorry?
Dad and I thinking of getting married again.
I've not... you're not... Mum?
To one another.
Yes, I know that, but there's no deliveries on the way, is there?
No, good God. You'd make a fortune if there was. We just thought it might be nice if we included our children this time in our wedding.
But what are you talking about? My brother was at your wedding.
No, you both were.
Exactly.
The first Greek wedding.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, look, we'll talk about...
I just thought it might be nice if we repeated it, because it's 50 years.
I know, it's 50 years. That man is a saint. There's a reason he's not going and getting his hearing aid. He's as deaf as a post and he refuses to go, and I know why, honestly.
What are you inferring? What are you inferring?
I'm just saying that he's a very, very wise man in not getting a hearing aid.
Do you know how lucky he is to have me as his wife?
I don't know if he'll know. I'm sure you tell him every single day, and I'm sure that's more of a reason why he's not getting a hearing aid. Right, listen, Okay, I really have to go now because I'm literally working, and all you've done is ring up and slagged off my jumper, and then had to have me explain to you how your subconscious bias against the gay and trans community needed to be called out on the radio.
Will you stop that? I am not biased against the gay and trans and any other sort of community.
Well, you've now been actually really, really homophobic because you've been very not inclusive in your language, because it's actually LGBTQI+, and all you mentioned there was gay and trans people, meaning you're leaving out bisexuals, you're leaving out non-binary, you're leaving out genderqueer people. I mean, what about them? What about their rights, Mum?
I said an any other. I'm very inclusive.
Well, they're just other? That's all they are? Other?
You are such a toe rag. I have a lot of gay friends. I have a lot of lesbian friends. Okay?
Yes.
I don't know if I have any trans friends because they might not tell me that they were trans.
Oh, that's disrespectful.
It's not disrespectful.
They're not. The fact you've even seen them as trans, they're not trans. They're just people. I mean, now you're defining them as trans. Oh, my God. I can't believe this.
No.
Oh, right. Mum, I think you need to quit while you're ahead, because we're about to be done by Ofcom for all of this blatant discrimination over the radio.
I'm not. I have discriminated against anybody.
Honestly, you got to do
People are people, and they must live the way they want to live. And I love all people.
Yeah, all right.
Well, apart from people that wear horrible bloody jumpers.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Okay, I'm going to hang up now.
Why?
Not that I'm on the phone to you. You're on the video call, right? Because I've got to do a show. I've got texts and stuff coming in, please. I've even had someone complain. Baby is 3 has said, okay, enough with the mother bit. It's not cute or funny. It's just a further opportunity for you to talk about yourself.
Who said that?
Baby is 3. It's someone who is...
Obviously doesn't like me talking to my son.
Well, he's a communicator, an addiction expert, a husband, an art collector, a creative, a sailor, which is nice. Yeah, that's what he is.
Oh, what a busy life he leads. Well, cheers, darling. I'm going to finish my pure tonic water.
Yeah, okay. Have you got a nomination for Woke of the Week, by the way?
Well, I was going to go with Prince William, but...
Great, all right. All right, lovely. Thanks. We don't need to know the but. That's great. All right, I'm going to say bye now. All right, I really am saying bye now.
Are you really?
Yes, I've got to get to a commercial break, and if I don't get to the commercial break, then I don't get paid.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Well, it's lovely.
You best get paid. Okay, you best get paid.
Okay. Well, it's lovely to catch up with you again. Please make sure you call again in the next 3 months. All right? No, you don't
I'm coming down to see you tomorrow.
You're not coming down to see me tomorrow. All right. I've moved, and I'll text you my new address. All right. I'll see you later.
I love you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Love you too, Mum. All right. All right. Bye.
Don't love your jumper, but I do love you.
I know you don't love my jumper. All right. Bye.
Bye. How do I hang up?
I don't know how you hang up. You have to talk to Elif.
You hang up. Hang up.
Stop talking. You're off the screen now, and you're still talking. Be quiet. I'm taking a quick break. And yeah, I have nothing more to say.
Online, on DAB, and on the Talk Radio app. Talk Radio.
Morning all, 16 minutes to 1. How are you? It's late night with Cristo here on Talk Radio. Lynn has sent me a message. Sam, can you add this to the board, please? Sainsbury's for me this week for Woke of the Week. Thank you for that one. Another one here from Furies. It looks, you know what, Cristo, I'm nominating you again because you won't talk about the Great Reset after 11. So that's 2 for me. And a few more tweets as well. On this. Let's take a quick look. Chris says, that gin has obviously affected Mother F, and I think what she means is that there are 2 parts to a dance and you can't have both participants doing the same part. They'd smash into each other. Just stop calling them male and female parts and the problem is solved. Yes, but that's wrong as well, isn't it? Mrs. Nutt, you're in a bad mood tonight. Very argumentative, grumpy, and you look like you can't be bothered. Someone got out of the wrong side of the bed today. Am I argumentative today? More so than normal? Sorry if I am. I'm a bit tired today and I feel a bit about all of the restrictions. I think I need my weekend this weekend. Okay, Angela in Coventry. Morning, Angela.
Morning, Cristo. How are you?
Fine, thanks. What have you got for me?
I just want to know if you got your card okay.
Oh, thanks, Angela. That was you. Thank you. I got it today. Yeah. Thanks so much.
No worries.
You sent me a lovely card saying how happy you were to have come on the show, and I appreciate it greatly. It was very, very kind of you. Thank you.
I thought you was a little bit down, so we do, we have a little craft club. We used to do it at the library, and
you're a crafter.
Yeah, I do crochet and all sorts. And on a Tuesday afternoon, I said to one of my friends was struggling. I said, "Well, do it at our place. We've got to get on with life, haven't we?"
That's all you can do. That is all you can do in a sensible way, in a way that doesn't harm other people, in a way that will keep you safe. I mean, I don't want to get COVID like you because, you know, I'm overweight, but I also can't sit in my house forever. So I am, like others, wiping down where I'm working, making sure I'm using my sanitizer, socially distancing, because we've all got to find a balance between living our lives and being safe.
Yeah. Do you know what I have to do though?
What?
Well, when I looked at government guidelines what to do, well, that if one of my friends sit on my seat, I have to wipe it down.
If someone sits on your seat?
Yeah, because if you've got your own seat, and if you accidentally sit on someone else's seat, you have to wipe it down.
Ah, okay, so, I understand. Well, I suppose that seems fair if you sat on someone else's seat before when you're not supposed to. But but I'm used to wiping down everything. Kevin O'Sullivan thinks I'm hilarious because he comes in the studio and the first thing I do, here they are, I've got them right here, big pack of wipes, and wipe down the whole studio because what else can you do?
Well, I'm a bit of a clean freak and it's made it worse.
Oh, say that again. Sorry, I had to unplug a second, so I lost you. Say that again.
I'm a bit of a clean freak, and it makes it worse.
Well, totally. But then if you're a clean freak anyway, a lot of it will be habit for you. You know, for instance, getting in and washing your hands. I don't know anyone who isn't quite a clean person that doesn't wash their hands as soon as they get in before COVID, you know? That was just a good thing. I was always taught when I was growing up that before you go into the fridge for anything, you wash your hands because you don't know what you might have been touching before. So for those people who are clean to start with, this probably wasn't a huge jump, right?
Yeah. Can I ask you something? Just like, I got 2018, I had a pneumonia injection, but it didn't quite settled in, so I had the start of pneumonia.
Right.
And and I was beginning to wonder, was it around then? Because we had nothing for about a year and a half. Properly, have we?
Well, I mean, people have been saying that's been here for some people, maybe for about a year. There are cases from about sort of November, December last year, but I think 2018 is probably a bit too far back, if I'm honest. That to me sounds like it was actually the pneumonia, if that's what they thought it was.
Yeah, because I had bad asthma attack with it, and but because she said when you start the pneumonia injection, it can go either way. It can take a while to settle in.
Sometimes you get the symptoms, don't you, of the thing you're being vaccinated against. Listen, Angela, I've got to go. I've got to fit in Lee before the end of the show, but nice to talk to you. Thank you for the card. Take care. It's Angela in Coventry who sent me a very lovely card to say hello and to thank me for the time she came on the show, which was very nice of her. I always love getting mail. Lee is in Duns Borders. Hey, Lee.
Hello, saving the best till last.
Yes, you are the last. You are my last caller of the week. Oh, I didn't get Angela's woke of the week. Let me start with your one then. What's your woke of the week then?
I would probably sort of pick the old fogies wanting to get rid of the geriatric.
Yeah, old people that are offended by the term geriatric. So we've just decided that we're going to throw all old people into the woke bin. I'm afraid they're all going in there, every single one of them. What's up? What's going on, Lee?
I just wanted to sort of tell you a tale about fate, which sort of inspired me to write the greatest piece of story I think I've ever wrote, if I'm being honest.
Oh, so I'm glad you're underselling it.
Yeah. No. Basically, I was at an Aberdeen football game back in 2007.
Right.
I'd been on my own. We'd got beat 1-0 in the last minute by our bitter rivals, and I had an opportunity to sort of take my life down 3 different sort of roads that evening. There was a few Aberdeen fans that had looked after me during the day, wanted me to go back up north to Aberdeen to sort of drown our sorrows. I'd also had a telephone call while I was on the train home from my mother, who was in Edinburgh, which was my sort of destination, asking did she want us to sort of pick me up at the station because she was at the hospital with my stepfather, whose mother was receiving some treatment for throat cancer.
Right.
And I said, look, Mum, I said, if you're busy with Gordon, which is my stepfather, I said, just look after him. I said, I'll just continue to make my own way home. So I then got off the train. I went to Burger King for a quick bite to eat, and I was expecting to get a 10 o'clock National Express coach back to Berwick-upon-Tweed. And then a friend of mine was picking up at Berwick-upon-Tweed and taking us back to the Scottish borders. However, I wasn't allowed to board this express coach because apparently I had not booked.
Right.
But the driver, whose name was Dennis, I remember it like it was yesterday, said, look, pal, he said, if when I make my final roll call and there's a space going, I'll let you on. I said, oh, that's great, pal. He said, just stand over there where the bollard is. I said, near bother, pal. So about 2 or 3 minutes later, I heard a guy say, go stand over there with the man with the big red hat on, which was me. I'd had an Aberdeen hat on.
Right.
And this absolutely gorgeous blonde 20-year-old lady came up to me and went, are you lost too? And I went, no. I said, in fact, if push came to shove and I can't get this bus here, I said, I'm just going to maybe call up my brother who's at university in Edinburgh and I'll just stay at his house. And she said, where are you going, like? I said, I'm going to a place called Duns. I said, in the Scottish borders. She went, oh my God. I said, what's up? She said, that's where I'm trying to get to. She says, do you know a guy called Paul Burns? I said, well, in fact, I do. I said, his ex-girlfriend's little brother used to go to primary and high school with my little brother.
Yeah.
She said, well, I'll give him a call. I said, okay. So she gave him a call. Now, what had happened was she'd been out at the Edinburgh Fringe all day. This was a Saturday, of course, but with it being football day. this Paul Burns, who she'd met in London many, many years ago, was actually at the Duns Agricultural Show and couldn't come to pick her up from Edinburgh because he was wasted.
Right.
So when the phone was put on to me, he went, Lee, how many winners at Glorious Goodwood did you have? I'm like, okay, whatever. And he basically threatened me that if I didn't get this girl home, that I'd be dead. I said, look, Paul, don't worry, I'll get her home. So it comes to 10 o'clock, and Dennis, the driver, says, look, pal, you know, there's no seats left. You know, we'll just kind of have to, you know, sort of drive off without you.
Right.
There was a 10:15 bus which actually went round the borders rather than down like the motorway, which we could get to Galashiels, which is another place.
Lee, I love you, but I feel like I'm on that bus at the moment. We've got to bring this home, my love.
Right. Basically, this American girl sort of allowed me to write the greatest sort of writing I've ever had the opportunity to write, because she was from a place called Westchester in Pennsylvania,
right,
sort of like Philadelphia area, and we kind of got a taxi from the bus station in the Borders back to where we live in Duns. The taxi driver took a picture of us to sort of allow us to remember the evening, and based on those.
Did you stay in touch with her?
We managed to sort of track her back down in like Facebook terms, and just a couple of years ago, we found out that she married a World Cup winning cricket player called Liam Plunkett.
Yeah. Listen, Lee, I'm glad that it inspired you to do the best writing you've ever done in your life. But I've got to be inspired to say goodbye now, because I've got to fit in the woke of the week and do the newspapers and say bye to Martin. So listen, it's been lovely to talk to you, and you have yourself a lovely evening, all right? And speak to you next week. That's Lee up in Duns Borders. All right. We have the results of woke of the week. Oh, okay. We're going to do it that way. Sorry. Okay. In joint, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in joint, 1, 2, 4th place, it's old people, Rihanna and Boris. I thought we had a vote for old people. We did have one vote for old people. Okay. It was Boris and old people, Rihanna in last place. Old people and Sainsbury's in 3rd place. In 2nd place, it's Prince William. And the woke of the week this week is... It's me, because apparently I wouldn't let you talk about the Great Reset. We're not doing woke of the week anymore. Because every week you just nominate me, and there's no point in doing this anymore. So, no, stop applauding. Like, this is supposed to be our chance to laugh at people. Stop it!
Woke of the week!
So this is supposed to be our chance of sort of poking fun at those woke warriors in society, not a chance for you to take the mickey out of me and call me the woke warrior. Okay, let's look at some of the tweets. Okay, love you anyway, says Kath. Thank you, but not so keen on the jumper, but it's your choice. Thanks very much for that. Dude, I'm just in and I've seen your ensemble. Where from? Tour de France meets Benetton. Is it that tight? Thank you. And yeah, thanks for that. Martin Kellner's coming up next. We've got 30 seconds, Martin, to hear about the delights of your programme. Hello.
Hello to you. How are you, Cristo?
Well, yeah, go on. What you got coming up?
Well, that well. Well, we've got loads of fine stuff. We're paying tribute to Eddie Van Halen. So, yeah, heavy rock fans will love that. So, yeah, we're playing tribute to her. And to Johnny Nash, actually. Both of whom died this week, and they'll both be featured in our very popular spot, Who's Dead? We're also, because it would have been John Lennon's 80th birthday, we're doing the Scouse Film Club. So, you know, if you're a pop music fan, popular music as we like to call it these days, join us, because we've got lots of fine stuff. And, of course, we're looking at all the football as well.
Thank you, Martin Kellner. That's it from me. I'm going to be back Monday night at 10 o'clock. Thanks so much for your company this week. And don't go anywhere. Martin next on Talk Radio.